without it. Start off. We have our presentation. 15 minutes or so each. If they go to 20, that's fine. If they're shorter, that's fine. But I'd encourage you to be brag a little bit about the work you've done, and feel free to really share kind of what you learned, how you plan to implement going forward, any success stories that you have from the process. Better relationships with providers, more interest, talking with funding agencies, opportunities you see. Don't feel you need to hurry through, because I think everyone is going to benefit from you sharing your story about the path you've taken, the barriers that you've overcome, the opportunities you see ahead. So don't be shy. So we just started working with the state of Tennessee, and I made the mistake of saying, well, you can be generous in your time. Well, first guy went on for like about 15 minutes on his personal introduction. So being from Minnesota, generous to try and get some of the farmers out and say, here's more than 3 sentences. In Tennessee, that's a whole different thing I've already learned. So with that, I'm going to introduce Tony from McLean County, and he's going to talk about the work they've done and the path forward. Tony?
Shall I stand? I guess that's something I didn't figure out.
You can wander around.
Okay.
Yeah, as long as you're aiming your voice to that apparatus.
To the smart speaker right here? That's the key? Okay. Well, good morning, everybody. I'm Tony Grant. I'm Assistant County Administrator for McLean County. And I got to say, I want to start my, are we? Yes.
I think you're good. Full screen there.
If you could full screen the.
There we go.
All right, see if that works there or over this direction. I'll switch it for you.
Oh. So, okay. I want to start obviously by thanking the Benton Institute. Your guys' knowledge and expertise in this area has really allowed us to really sink our teeth in and understanding what this process looks like. And of course, the Illinois Soybean Association for your financial support, as this is hugely important for McLean County, especially when we get to one of our slides with the opportunities for economic growth. These are our partners that partnered here in McLean County with us. I want to thank all of you as well, as without your support and your efforts and your endeavors in regards to this, we wouldn't be where we sit right now with a pretty good plan of how we're going to move forward. Obviously, that's a very small text, but I also want to make sure that I recognize a handful of our members here. First and foremost, I want to thank Francesca for coming in so very late into the process, and yet she picked up everything so very quickly and was a true asset, as well as Kyle. I want to thank Kyle Mueller for all the design and thought that went into the PowerPoint you see, and then something we're going to reveal for the first time publicly today for everybody. So go ahead if you hit the next one. I'm going to start with our survey. Our survey response, we received 1,230 responses, which was a lot further and higher than we were anticipating. It's a heck of a response. We have 170,000 people in the community, and the fact that almost 1% of our population took time to complete our survey says to us how important this is, how much value this is. So there's definitely, we want to use the momentum that we have generated as part of this. And one thing I will illustrate on here is that we didn't just get survey results from McLean County. We got survey results from counties that are near us and around us, which was kind of interesting. But we did get a media press that went out. We had a press conference that was picked up on the local news, which is out of Peoria. So it makes sense that we get some of these other counties as well. But it was very interesting to see that we did have a large response that came from the Morton area, which I think is Tazewell County. So maybe that's one of your next 10 that you might want to reach out to over there. We'll take the next slide, please. So in looking at our responses that we have from our survey, 72% of the respondents were identified as having speeds to internet that would be unserved or underserved. And out of those, 35% reported a speed of less than 25 megabytes or 25.3, which, as we all know in here from the great classes that we've taken and the information we've gathered, would qualify as an unserved area within our community. We're going to dive into our results a little bit, and as we do so, these are some of the, it's such great information. Is Nancy here? I want to thank her. She's on a call. Thank you for your work and for kind of culling that information and putting it together so we were able to gather some good information out of us. So specifically, we're going to start talking about our farm and agribusiness community here in McLean County. 32% of them indicated that they were satisfied. Obviously, the inverse of that means that 68% of them were not happy or were not satisfied with it. 38% indicated that they were satisfied with the fixed internet connectivity and how it supports their business activities they have on the farm. And then 26% of respondents indicated that satisfaction and how it supports their family life. That's 26% of the respondents were actually satisfied with it. So out of our 1,230 surveys, that's around 440 of them that indicated they were happy. So the rest of them, they think there's opportunities for improvement. These are the same people that identified that $51 to $100 was a comfortable amount they were willing to spend on their internet services. So these are people that are willing to pay money, but they're not happy with what they're getting now, but they are still continuing to pay that rate. Again, that identifies for us an opportunity for us to continue developing the rural internet here. As we continue on to our next slide, 85% of respondents reported needing to resort to cellular data for their internet, and of those, 40% tested a speed that was 25.3 or less. So more than a fifth of the locations were identified without local service accesses were businesses. Think about that lost opportunity in revenue. We know how important internet access is for commerce today, and that's lost revenue that these businesses cannot realize because they're not on the internet. They don't have access to sell their products or even to connect with products to find ways to bring down the cost of their services. So that's a huge opportunity that we have here in McLean County, and this is one of the big drivers that we have as we continue to move forward. Nearly 2/3 of the respondents were dissatisfied with the affordability of their internet. Again, tying back to that previous slide, they're willing to pay money for the services, they just want to get a high quality product for the service. And finally, I'll point out on this particular slide here, are we on 8? Yeah. 44% of respondents were not satisfied with the reliability of the internet service. We received over 35 pages of people's internet stories as part of our survey. 35 pages of people who are willing to share what their experiences are with us. And one of the primary things that we heard throughout those was that they're paying a large sum of money for it, and yet it wasn't consistent. There'd be parts of their houses that didn't have internet. There'd be parts of their farm or their business they couldn't get it. They'd have to go into a closet or a small space is the only place they could get it. And as we know, that's a challenge to face in regards to that. Continuing with this, we loved how the internet is used. I think that's an important metric as we look at how engaged people are with this particular topic. We found that 96% of our respondents used it for connectivity, making sure that they're able to communicate with family and friends, using social media and video calls. 96%. That's a higher number than I was anticipating, but it does align with what you see nationwide when it comes down to that. 75% reported that they were using cloud services, and 60% of those were reported using internet connectivity for education. 60% for educational purposes. That was another number that kind of popped off the page at me, like 60% is a large number. And as we continue on with our survey findings and how it's used, 53% reported using their internet connection for workforce training. Workforce development is an important area when it comes to economic development for any community. Businesses are not going to locate to your county if you don't have a workforce that's ready and engaged to use them. So to see that 53% of them were using it for that was really an eye-popping number. The next number to me is really the one that surprised me the most out of all of our numbers that we had, is that we've already seen such a quick adaptation of providing healthcare services over the internet. Those that live in our rural communities don't have access to these services. But to see how much COVID has changed how we interact with our healthcare facilities, our medical professionals, 79% of them. It's a high number, much higher than I was anticipating. I thought we would get to that number, but to see that we're sitting there today in 2023, was just mind-boggling for me. And finally on this one, before we get into some of our stories, is 69% of our respondents reported currently using internet connection for work in telecommuting. It's a high number, 69%. So again, that's an opportunity for people to live where they want to live, and where they're going to choose is where they have the high-speed internet, so they can complete their work from home. This is a huge thing in survey after survey that you're seeing when it comes to trends in the workforce. So this is where we start getting into some of our statements. Again, we have 35 pages of these. So we really had to cherry pick a couple that we thought were really valuable, because I didn't want to just stand up here and read 35 pages worth of survey responses. So we chose these 4 out of it, as we thought they really drove home the point that we were trying to make and why this is such an important endeavor that we're engaging in. So I'll just read some of the highlighted ones. The one in the upper left is about kids. Family of 6, 4 kids. When the internet goes out, the whole house stops working. I've got 3 kids of my own. I can verify that 100%. My 16-year-old son comes stomping up them stairs. Who did something to the internet? And it's always, we did it, of course. It's the parents. And you know, these things go out. I live in a rural community. Again, getting back to the reliability, that's my personal life as well. In the upper right, these forms of communication aren't a luxury for us, they're a necessity. This individual husband has stage 4 cancer, and they interact with their medical professionals as part of this process by using this. It's 120 miles away. This isn't just something that is a nice to have, this is a must have. Bottom left down here, mobile hotspots are our only option for internet. Again, we saw this time and time again in our survey responses. And mobile hotspots are going to be a part of our solution, as we'll get to here momentarily, but we're not there now from a technology perspective that we can consistently rely on these hotspots to provide the type of service that is needed. And again, the bottom right, in this digital age, high-speed internet is a necessity and not a luxury. So we're talking about life-changing opportunities here, and that's why we're going to continue to push forward with this. The next slide, we went ahead and did a word cloud. What are we seeing in regards to our survey responses? Let's zoom out a little bit and see. Obviously, the big words are the ones that pop out. Internet service, you would expect to see that based on the survey results. But there are also 2 providers that came up often, Frontier and Metronet. Frontier, unfortunately, didn't have the most positive results in regards to the survey. Most of the things that were talked about with them were not very positive. Metronet was a little more positive, but still more neutral is where I'd put that one. But again, look at the words that were used up here. Speed, streaming, work. Very large ones, very important words. Some ones that I thought were kind of surprised that we saw that popped up was expensive, which you'll see over there, I think it's on the right-hand side. We've got business, school, remote. So time and time again, our citizens informed us through the survey how they're using the internet, why this is an important endeavor, and why we're going to continue at it here in McLean County as we continue to move forward with implementing a high-speed rural network here. So, not everything was negative. This is a finding that I thought was fantastic, and it was very surprising. We had over half of our agricultural entities said that they have a high point or some type of aerial opportunity that they would be willing to host equipment to help expand our network here in McLean County. 54%, such a high number, much higher than I anticipated. So, altogether, when we roll up our survey results, we found out that 51% of our respondents who didn't have access to the internet or who reported access, speeds equaled uncertain. And it is with that, we go ahead and announce today the formation of our work group that will continue past this endeavor that we've entitled Accelerate Access McLean County, or AAMC. We will continue to work on this to ensure that all residents in our county have access to quality choices of high-speed internet. And here's the public reveal of our logo. We'll be using this as we continue to move forward. And I got to thank Anna from the Farm Bureau, who I don't think is here yet. She'll be here shortly. She started with the initial design of this, and then Kyle went ahead and picked it up the rest of the way and got this thing to where it's at, which I think is an absolutely sign of a beautiful design because it means so much. So I'm going to read this right off of the page here. Is the blue in our emblem, the Wi-Fi symbol, is a representation of how broadband is being embedded in our community. As you see, that's the middle of our logo. The yellow circle is a symbol for both the sun and the seed, which is necessary for the green parts to grow out, which represent plants and crops, which leads to prosperity within our community. And it also, this ties into McLean County's theme, which is growing the best McLean County. So this emblem, you will see this on all of our communications as we go forward that have to deal with our broadband efforts and our broadband outreach, and to develop a high-speed internet access here in McLean County. Our guiding principle: Accelerate Access McLean County strives to expand access for all residents to quality choices for reliable, affordable, and robust high-speed internet services to promote economic prosperity, foster educational opportunities, and improve quality of life. I think that last point is what we are truly striving to do, is to improve that quality of life. And how do we do that? All those previous points that we have as part of our guiding principle as we continue to move forward here in McLean County. So 5 bullet points that we have and how we're going to accomplish this is: the first one, we're going to continue our outreach to our current local internet service providers. We are seeking to find partners for a private and public partnership. As I'm sure most of your communities don't just have millions of dollars laying around to implement these high-speed networks. But we're going to work and find partners that do have some availability of capital so we can make this a reality. We're going to continue development of mapping resources for our ISPs. That's a role that we think we can play in government to help them develop their networks, as we can provide them some information such as where our current fiber is at, or where field tiles would be available. We think this information and the feedback we've gotten from our ISP interviews say that would be beneficial for the development of their performance. We're going to look into conducting a feasibility study to build a framework of what that would look like. So again, when we identify these partners, that we have tools for them to use so they don't have to start at step 1. We're going to explore a variety of opportunities to secure different funding and locate and improve processes related to permitting for the development of a high-speed network. One of the things we always hear is that government red tape gets in the way. And what we want to do here in McLean County is to try to clear the deck as much as we can and to help them with that. So that's a clear action that we can take in government to try to ease this process of building these networks out. So the question, what have we learned? Benton Institute has done a very good job of throwing so much information at us. Before I go to the next slide, I'm going to say what we've learned. It's hard. It's not an easy process. It's complex. There's so many unique challenges that come into this. And it requires so much planning before you even think about picking up a shovel. I usually work, as part of my job, I deal with a lot of capital improvement projects. To me, it's about getting that hammer swinging. Once that hammer starts swinging, you're good to go. But this isn't one of those scenarios. You have to properly plan it. So proper preparation prevents poor performance, is, I think, the 7 Ps. And that's what we've learned through this, is we need to properly plan as we continue to move forward. So our first map that we'll share with you today is areas that we've identified here through our surveys, the FCC mapping, the mapping that the state has done. Is the areas that are green on this are areas that are all identified as that are lacking the 100 by 20 megabyte standard. So these are opportunities for us to secure some funding in regards to this project. You see, you get outside of our immediate limit to normal, we have some pockets, but there's a lot of people that live in between those pockets that don't have access. And even those that do live in those pockets out in the rural part, they have one choice. Choice is an important part for us, because choice develops a marketplace. Marketplace increases the value that the consumer is receiving, and competition, which is hugely important. This slide here, I think, is one of the ones that I truly appreciate, and I think ISU's mapping folks helped put this one together. And thank you so much for this. You don't know how many times I've been able to use this single slide to explain why this is important to somebody. So here in McLean County alone, this map shows the green and the yellows are soybean and corn production in underserved areas of the county. We're looking at here in McLean County alone an extra $13 million in economic growth opportunities. $13 million. That's real money. That's not the change you find in your couch cushion. That's real money that's going to impact people's lives. So again, another reason why we're going to continue to push forward through, even though we know it's hard, it's complex, it's difficult, but it's worth it. So that's why we're going to continue to push. We've started interviews with our ISP providers. We have a number of them. 18? What was that? 16. 16 different providers we have here. I know some of your counties would love to have 16 different providers, and we are unique from that. But that presents us with unique challenges because we have to find the partner that has the same vision that we have to engage with and to move forward. That's important to us. Some of the feedback that we've gotten from them is that they want to make sure that they're working together and there's a collaborative approach to this. And that's very important. That's what we feel it's important to have a collaborative approach and ensure that the vision that we see for the county is one that they see and that they can understand how they fit into that practice. The ISP providers have also told us that they need and they want to work with county and municipalities. We can facilitate those conversations from the county perspective, and we will facilitate those conversations. ISPs were aware that there is this large ability of funding that's going to be coming for this. They're completely aware of it, and they want to ensure that they're able to leverage that to develop a network that's going to work for them. And we're going to help with that as well. And some of the ISPs have even shared with us that they're willing to embrace this hybrid model in which they have currently they're providing fixed wireless services, but they're wanting to get into fiber because they realize fiber to the home is the true solution that we're going to, or at least fiber to the farm. I think that's a more reasonable approach that we take because then the farm can then go ahead and create the different technologies that we've learned about through this time period. And the last map I think we have that I'm going to share with you today is just all the different vertical assets that we have here in McLean County. That's a lot of them. So some of these aren't going to be viable based off of trees and those types of things, but this is the number of different possibilities that we have in McLean County to expand our services when it comes to the wireless solutions. As we know, wireless solutions are very key to the precision agriculture. So we're going to continue to work in that area, and that's why we thought it was very interesting, the number of locations. And if you tie that back to the slide you saw earlier, the 54% of people that were willing to host those types of services, this provides us a great opportunity in McLean County to ensure that that piece of our network is developed as we move forward. So what are we going to do? That's all on this slide. We'll move to the next one. And then on to the next slide. Our first strategy we're going to go ahead and hit today. What we're going to do in McLean County is we're going to pursue partnerships that leverage a combination of technologies and infrastructure. We, the AAMC, clearly acknowledges that the key to delivering a robust marketplace for high-speed internet services require both fixed wireline as well as fixed wireless services. It's not an either or, it's the belt and suspenders approach. We are going to engage with cellular solutions, as we think this is going to be appropriate as we continue to see the build out of the 5G networks, and those technologies are going to start being able to provide the speeds that are necessary for our needs. And of course, the final one is we're going to encourage fiber installation, and what we're a fan of is the open access model. That allows us to increase the competition, and we think that's very, very important as we continue to move forward. Our second strategy we're going to pursue is we're going to prepare ourselves to assist ISPs in navigating governmental permitting processes. And that's where we think a feasibility study could assist with that, along with the collaboration with our partners to collect data and pursue creation of GIS layers, that have outlined where we have fiber locations currently. Even the big issue that we came up with field tiles concern. As we're putting a fiber in, we don't want to damage the field tiles because that impacts the farmers. And that's the number one issue that we heard often coming up when we've had these conversations, is concern about damaging the field tiles. There's some opportunity that we can assist from a county in identifying where those are at. That's a benefit that we can provide to the ISPs and help with those types of conversations. And finally, looking at the consolidated right-of-way issues. As we heard in at least one of the classes, right-of-way is one of those issues that we have to work our way through. Is the fiber has to go someplace, and that's one area that we think we can provide some assistance with our partners, of course. And then finally on this slide is the clarifying easements. So we know that's another one of those areas that's kind of an obstacle that we have. And our final third strategy that we have here is we're going to encourage the installation of fiber to provide affordable symmetrical services. We think the symmetrical services is really the future of where broadband is going to be at. Right now, it's great that you can get downloads at a high rate, But if you can't get your data out, especially if you look at our precision agriculture needs, you're capturing so much data off of the farm with sensors and those types of things. That has to be all rolled together so that that data actually means something. So getting a symmetrical service is very, very important for us. We also want to make sure that we're removing barriers from a financial perspective. And I can tell you in the conversations that I've had, a lot of people in our community are unaware of the Affordable Connectivity Program that establishes a nice baseline for high-speed internet. So we're going to do as much as we can to highlight the awareness of that and work with our provincial ISPs to ensure that they're doing as much outreach as they can to inform their customers of that. And finally here, we're going to provide technical assistance, which is leveraging all the available funding that will be in the pipes. Again, all in the idea of building out our high-speed network. And finally, we're going to keep our eye on the prize. Because we understand that what we stand here today and say we're going to do, that might not be what's needed tomorrow. We might be approached by an ISP or another opportunity to present itself. So we're going to keep our eye on the prize. Flexibility, flexibility, flexibility. So we're going to listen, keep our ears open, and continue to move forward, being as flexible as we can. Next slide is funding opportunities. I'm sure all of your slide decks are going to have something similar to this, so I won't spend too much time on it. Obviously, there's funding that's in the pipeline, and we're going to try to connect those resources for those. Next slide. So our role as we move forward, we're going to continue to develop relationships to spur the development of the high-speed rural network. And again, this is a relationship type of business. It's a connectivity issue. HUN was intended in regards to that because it's internet connectivity and connectivity of all of us. As we saw earlier, 96% of people use the internet for connectivity. We need to do the same thing in our conversations. We're going to continue to maintain public awareness of McLean County's broadband initiatives and what our goals and objectives are. We're also going to ensure that all of our elected leaders are aware of our efforts and opportunities to continue to push our initiatives. And finally, we want to affirm the delivery of promised services and appropriate development with our identified partners. As we know, and some of your communities know better than others, companies come in and say, we're going to provide you this, and you actually get that. That's not what we want to have happen here. So it's like Reagan said, trust but verify. That's the approach that we're planning on doing as we continue to move forward in regards to this. And finally, we recognize that the conclusion of this broadband breakthrough is only the beginning of is only the end of the beginning of this entire process. We're going to keep our eye on the prize. We're going to remain flexible in how we accomplish our goals because our residents are depending on us to do this. Thank you very much.
Any questions for Tony? So I have one. Who is now AAMC?
Like,
Is that your team continuing?
It is going to be our partners to continue to move forward with us in regards to this. Those are still conversations we have ongoing as what we want that to look like. It's not all partners make sense for this endeavor, and there may even be some potential opportunities for us to get people that aren't involved in certain areas, some of the lay people, for lack of a better term, involved as well. Because this is not just a government issue, this is an issue that impacts everybody. We want the community to make sure they're heard and they're part of this.
Good, thanks. Adrienne?
Sorry, Tony, I'm going to ask you to reveal this. So when you looked at the Illinois broadband maps and who had applied for Connect Illinois 3, what did you all discover, and what's your response to that?
Well, we did find out that Comcast was a company that has applied for grants pretty much to cover all of McLean County. We are going to engage in conversation with Comcast. We actually have an upcoming ISP interview scheduled with them, or we're working on getting them scheduled. And then in those conversations, we'll have the discussions that we need to have. What that looks like, again, we're going to be flexible. Just because maybe on the surface that doesn't seem like it would be a natural fit, maybe it could be. But we're going to remain flexible. We're going to keep our eyes open and our ears open to seeing what they provide. And of course, the big thing we're going to ask for is their grant applications, is we want to see what they're actually proposing. That's a big piece for us, is to see what it is. We don't know what they're asking. They haven't engaged with us yet. But we're going to get an interview, and we're going to go ahead and have those conversations with them and determine what's the best course as we move forward.
So I would just point out for everybody here, as you look at the Connect Illinois 3 round, and it does come quarterly, you should go back to that Illinois map and see who's applying, because they may not notify you. And I think Tony's exactly right. The question is, what are they promising? And really, if there's the opportunity for all of you to make a reply to the state of Illinois about your thoughts about whether these people are going to do what they say they're going to do, or they're going to match the community need. This is something, since I'm the community liaison for Tony, I'm using him as a leading example of a way to keep following up and interacting with that Illinois map as you go forward. Okay, thanks, Tony. Sorry to pick on you.
Yes.
Just to piggyback on Adrian's point, the community support is an evaluated criteria in round 3 and eventually B. So one way is letter of support, all of that, but then also financial commitment. Is there any potential ARPA funding that the county has that they'll use for expansion efforts?
We will explore the opportunities that we have. ARPA, we have a lot of needs that we have, as a lot of communities do. So if there makes sense, there's the potential, but as of now, that's not something that we can commit to. So I'd be hesitant to say one way or another in regards to that. But if there's an opportunity that makes sense, that's something we'd be willing to pursue, whatever funding opportunities we can identify as part of that. Yes.
I'm curious, with that many suppliers that you have in your area, do you see any competition there, or are pricing about the same, or how does that shake out right now?
Within McLean County, really the only competition is in Bloomington Normal. That's where the majority of these ISPs are operating, or near Bloomington Normal. You get out into our more rural areas, they're lucky if they have a single option. There is a little competition when it comes to our fixed wireless solutions, but it doesn't seem like there's a lot of overlap in regards to that, and that's really what we're seeing in the rural parts. If they have internet connection options, it's usually one, and they're kind of stuck with the service that is offered. But that's what we want to try to develop, is to get that competition in place. We think there's a role for us to play in regards to that. But ultimately, that's what we are striving to get to, where we want, ideally, in a perfect world, everybody in McLean County would have options to a wired solution and a wireless solution, depending on what they feel is perfect for their unique circumstance. All right, well, I'm gonna mosey, yes.
Real quick, when you talk to providers, what's been their reaction to your request for open access?
I'm not a part of that committee. We had to go ahead and break these things up, so that's why I keep looking over here. Like I thanked Francesca at the very beginning of this. She's taking on a lot of our ISP outreach portions. Have you heard anything positive or negative in regards to our desire for the open?
Not really one way or the other. They're just interested in working in initiatives, so keeping them in their networks currently. So having them expand is still a conversation.
So we haven't heard too much in regards to pro or con to that aspect. Their focus primarily, from where we're at in our conversations, is understanding what their initiatives and what their plans are. And we've only barely shared a little of ours. This is more information gathering as opposed to us providing at this time. But we will engage in those conversations, as we've discussed with her, is that we'll probably have second interviews, third, fourth, so on and so forth, and that's when we kind of get more into the weeds. These are more just introduction and us seeking to understand what they're planning for our area. Yeah.
Yeah, Tony, I do economic development work with Ogle County. I understand from my friend Director Colvin that they've also been participating with us. This is one of their economic development initiatives for the county.
Correct.
And Casey's supposed to be here.
He had a pre-existing commitment. He wasn't able to make it today. I ended up getting a text from him yesterday that said, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to make it. And I said, that's fine. Go out and drum up some business for McLean County. So
Could you roll that into, though, how your program's integrating into what you're doing with economic development?
absolutely. So when it comes to economic development, I know in the conversations I've had with our local EDC, when a business or a company is determining where they want to set up their new factory, their new company, one of the first questions is asked, is there fiber available? Because that allows them that future flexibility. And that's one thing that we're really striving to engage with here, is we are centrally located. We have a hub of so many interstates within the state that we know we're an ideal place for these businesses to set up. We just need to ensure that we have our infrastructure in place. And that's where the partnership really comes in with the EDC, is helping understand what the business needs are and ensure that our efforts when it comes to fiber development also piggyback on that as well. And in some conversations we've had with some potential ISPs, we've talked about potentially having some dedicated strands that would be used specifically for economic development. So more to come in regards to that, but they really are hand in glove. We have to have the ideal situation, and it's not just the business side from a development, it's also housing is a problem here in McLean County. The recent study said we're about 4,500 units short, so we need people to come in and build homes, whether that be apartment complexes or whether that be single-family housing. Another question you constantly see on surveys of where people want to live are high-speed internet. So if we can provide fibered solutions for that, that's going to encourage a developer to come in and to start putting those houses in that we know we need for our economy to continue to grow. And at the end of the day, that's our primary focus from a government perspective, is creating that environment that people want to come and invest. And that's where we think the broadband, as well as some other initiatives the county are working on, could really piggyback nicely into those efforts.
Thanks, Tony.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Next up is Ogle County, Pat Nordman, County Commissioner.
Roll by itself.
I can, but I think we have. Yes. Okay, so we just move forward and back. Should be good. Mostly just.
Technology.
I can also do it.
Okay. All right. Good morning, everyone. Ogle County here. So we're at the northern tip of Illinois. You Southerners, we don't know about you guys, but you do have pretty weather. This is true. It was a beautiful drive this morning. So first of all, Ogle County Broadband, we formed about in 2019, was starting to think about it then. And then we were fortunate to become part of the Accelerate Broadband program. Ogle County is trying to seize the moment. We recognize broadband's out there. We recognize many avenues to get internet into people's homes and businesses. First of all, thank you very much, all of our collaborators. We couldn't have done it without you, with the direction and the education that you provided to us. This is a great opportunity, as McLean has shown, us advancing one step at a time. And man, are they baby steps, aren't they? We got a rock star team in Ogle County. Many people have been as a ad hoc, come and gone, but they're still out there preaching the word of internet broadband services. So thanks to all of the team members that have participated and listened to us do our spiel over and over again. Our mission and vision, just like everyone else, we want to be high speed, we want to be reliable, we want to be affordable, we want to be accessible. We want everybody to have the same opportunity in Ogle County, just as you would in Chicago, in New York, and San Francisco. We recognize that we have urgent needs. We recognized in 2019 that we had needs, but then when COVID hit, we really recognized we had needs. We know that we need a backbone, or what is called the middle mile. We did submit to middle mile grant, and I keep watching to see if I'm gonna get a grant or not. I'm not anxious about it at all. But we recognize that we had to build a backbone in our county first before we could start talking end mile services. And before the middle mile, we had to figure out, what do we have? What do we have, who has it, and what do we do with it? And then when it comes to farmers, that's just a whole different breed of cats there, or cows or pigs or whatever, but that's just a whole different breed. Our farmers are quick to fix what they need. They're very agile, and they'll certainly work quickly in workarounds. They do workarounds in a heartbeat on a day-to-day basis, and we know that. We know that rural broadband providers have high costs, in Ogle County that is definitely seen, and you'll see that in a little bit here. And we know that we have competition and that we have to harness that competition and make it accessible for all of our people. And we know that we need a modern and durable infrastructure. Technology at the home base. Who would have thought there'd been a day when you didn't have to have markers and row in your fields? I mean, who would have thought that? Who would have thought there'd been a day when you didn't have to load bag by bag by bag your corn mix? It's fascinating. And I can't even begin to imagine all the technology that the guys and gals are dealing with in the fields. So from pre-planting to planting to gatering around and field testing and looking at the soils, to harvesting, to getting it to the bins, to getting it to dry correctly, and then getting it to wherever we're going for storage. That's the name of the game, and how do we pull all those pieces together for our ag community? So this is our home farm site, and you'll notice that I have Frontier. Do you think I like my Carrier? No, I really don't like my Carrier at all. They know that.
That's the good day.
That's a good day. This is a good day. Yeah, so you notice that, yeah, what can I say? It's just bad. I mean, you all giggle when you saw the slide, and you got it real quickly that we have a lot of this going on. So when the boy he's trying to upload and download data, and his father's with him, it's just not a pretty day in our neighborhood. It's really not. So this is why we're doing what we're doing. So just as everyone has gotten these great comments, we know that our residents are living with it day to day and they're trying to get it right. And we definitely have to get it right for them. If we are to build our economic development and build our bedroom communities and build our businesses and our ag communities, we got to get it right. And we're not getting it right at this point. We're working on it, and that's our goal. But you can see by the comments that we have a great need. This is our unserved and underserved areas. So the pink area, what you see is where we have internet capabilities. That is our 25 by 3. The blue areas accounts for our underserved, our unserved areas. Let me get that correct. So definitely had a need. What you see there in the white spot is a telephone company. So they were grandfathered in. They have capability. They just don't have as much capability as we need in regards to fiber and that at this point. But we definitely have providers that want to play with us, and that's good. That's what we need. Our 25 by 3 fixed Broadband, what you see again is our density populations with the population out there. Excuse me. Again, 25-3, but it's not consistent. Again, Ogle County is limestone, so we have a lot of geographical challenges. I don't know what this one is. Oh, I'm sorry. The red dots that you see are unserved, 25-3. Yellow dots are underserved, so they get 25-3 to 100-3. Yeah, 100. But remember, that's what they say they can do. Doesn't mean it's what we're gonna get, does it? Because y'all know where I live on 64 with Frontier. Yeah. You think I would have a great speed? Yeah, I should. But. And so in the green that you see up there, again, populated really high up top where the telephone company is, and those are 100-20. Our bigger cities where the nuke is at, up northeast is Byron, and then Rochelle down at the south end, a little town down there. So again, the need. Again, the pink tells you the density, that the need is definitely there. And just another picture of it where you see the white, the yellowish white, no service. So priorities, we're optimistic. We haven't given up. We keep coming back. My husband still listens to me about broadband internet. My boy still complains about broadband internet. But we recognized that we had ARPA monies. And our county board was pretty decisive that we would use those monies for our broadband to put them back into the communities. And it's through the Illinois Connect team as well as in the Illinois Soybean Association that we just kept pushing the progress forward. We had a really neat meeting. Mike Delaney with the UI extension and our economic development chair, Chris, I forgot your last name. Oh, well, Manheim, sorry. I've known him for years, but they helped us organize up a meeting with the Farm Bureau. So we did the old guys, and then we did the young guys and gals. And they are so like adaptable and knowledgeable about what's out there, what's available, and how to get it to their farm. What they didn't, they didn't get yet, or what they haven't seen yet too much of, is that automation piece. So we have Joe Carroll service from Freeport area, further up north, and Polo area. They're coming in with more automation all the time. So we're looking to put robots into the fields that will be doing the automation of the beans. So they'll be driving, it'll be like a 911 center. Well, they'll have a council sitting in a business office somewhere, and they'll be automating from their seat to the field. And so they were really getting into the fact of, oh, that's probably 5 years down the road. And the one youngster, one young gentleman speaks up, and he's like, no, we're actually looking at it now. So it's there. So it was a good opportunity to reach out to them and get their knowledge as well as what they need from us down the road. This was one of the slides that we thought was a really good slide that pulled everything together from the wireless non-for-profit group that we all had presentation with. It shows you the variability, the vastness, and the diversity that you actually have to have from site to site to site. Because farmers don't live just in one area anymore, do they? We have farms, but we have farms that are maybe 10 miles away, 5 miles away, north, south, east, west. So we have to be flexible. One of the things that, like McLean County, is that we found out about our survey responses. You'll notice down in the south edge, we didn't get a lot of responses because they don't have internet. So they did paper for us, which was really nice. And we got good survey results back from that. Excuse me, vertical assets. So Not as many red dots as McLean had, because I'm really jealous of that one, for sure. But would they be agreeable to putting up, you know, a vertical? Absolutely. And I think anybody that you talk to would agree to be agreeable to putting it up if they mean they're gonna get, you know, faster internet. Again, just an aerial site, and I think this one came from
It's Illinois State.
Illinois State, right? Yeah. Nice, very nice. We use this. Actually, Farm Bureau's using this too, so good. So what do we have currently? Right now, what you see is that when you start from the center point, that's Oregon, Illinois. If you come to the left, it's going up to Mount Morris. It's going out to Route 26, and then we have 2 communities on either end. And that's about a total of 29 miles of fiber that we have, that will be finished, I should say. Once we get through the milkweed EPA that has to dig under and over, correct? Where is the IT guru on that one? So once we have our little ditch dug for the milkweed and the butterflies, we will be connected up. So that's a great use of our ARPA monies. That was 1.2 million that was dedicated out of the first tranche of monies that Ogle County received. Middle mile, NTIA, just saying, we got plans for that money. Excuse me. We partnered with Lee County, Bloomington County, a piece of Stevenson, and another county down south. Putnam. Putnam's not attached to us, but they wanted to be a part of it, so we said, come on board, we'll help you. So if we are awarded, this will be part of the backbone that we complete out finally. And we put 2.9 million, Ogle County has 2.9 million sitting aside. This is a $33 million project that we have to NTIA, that we're using ARPA monies for, just saying. And Lee County put 1.2 million towards it. And then Cindio, who is our partner. Cindio is our private partner that we're working with. And crossing our fingers, we will be awarded and that'll be completed out. That's a 5-year phase of build out. So affordability of the services that are provided currently, right now, these were the cost pieces in, excuse me, 2021, I believe. So let's see, Frontier's up there. I should be getting 30 and 5 for $49. I think we pay about $350 a month for services throughout, and you can see what we get. So affordable, we need affordability for a service. Project variability. Cindio, as I said, is our partner, and oh, thank you. Got those allergies going, you know. Cindio has been a really good partner with Ogle County. They deal in fiber, that is their expertise. They're part of the DeKalb BTOP program that was successful in 2018 to 2020. They're a 24/7 service, which is really nice. If a wire gets cut, they're there. It's not, you have to wait till the next day or the end of the weekend or the end of the holiday. AirCell is a division of Cindio that was just acquired up in the last 2 years, which makes them even more competitive because AirCell will now help us with our vertical sites and connect up even more. So it makes them more of a full service piece, if you will. Funding. We have about 7,000 addresses in Ogle County. We do have all the ISPs, or the points, IP points, already drawn out. So we have the work done. We just need that partnership to continue, and money. Money. I'm just gonna keep going over there.
Sorry you came, Greg.
Yeah, he's probably really sorry. Maybe I should talk on this side. Ogle County population a little over 51,000, and that's the 2020 census. And then, yeah, we have 1,763 miles of actual footage. Rochelle is one of our bigger areas. They have their own RMU, but again, they are willing to partner up with us also. Where do we go from here? NTIA, may I say it again? We are in our 3-year of a 5-year rollout that we started. So we are accomplishing, when I think of where we started and where we are finally moving towards, people actually recognize the word broadband when we say the word broadband now. Or they'll correct us and say, oh, when you say internet, you mean broadband. And so everybody gets it that it's all inclusive. It's not just one, it's the whole package. As I said, Ogle County invested in 2021 ARPA monies and 2022 ARPA monies. So 1.6 million in the first tranche and 2.9 million in the second tranche is sitting. And this is Don Griffin's statement, which you really do feel like you're in the Wild West, you know, like shooting from the hip at times and chit chat with people that you really don't know the technical terms, and you go, I wonder what that means. So we really are in the Wild West of broadband in the Midwest of Ogle County. Questions?
If MTIA totally screws up and doesn't fund you, what would you use those dollars for? Have you thought about that?
Yeah, we've already brainstormed. However, close your ears, because I don't want to miss one. Because you always have to have a plan B, don't you? And plan C. So then what we'll do is take parts of the county and just start like a cookie cutter and building the backbone that way. Yeah. Another grant came out yesterday or Monday, something like that, that we just got. And my team's already reached out to Joe Carroll, which is on northwest of Ogle County. And they are a fiber service. So there's another partner that we can potentially pick up with that will work with Syndio and Aircell. And they just have to realize that they have to come on board and be a part.
Okay.
So we have a plan, we just keep pushing it forward.
Good for you.
We also have a little bit of leverage now too, that we sort of know what we're talking about. You know what that means, right? Yeah. So that makes a big difference.
Good.
We actually have some intelligence that I'm gonna put to it now.
So Syndio provides services then off that fiber that you put in that's ready to be lit?
Yeah, that's 142 strands.
144.
144 strands. Ogle County's keeping 3 strands, and Syndio will maintain the rest. But then also at the same time, businesses will be able to come off of that. And that was a big debate in the county, whether we would allow, whether we wanted to take that ownership on for the fiber or not. And we selected not to because we don't have the 24/7 capability, and we don't have the manpower, and we don't have the expense. So.
Other questions?
I have another question.
Sure.
You have been through this process once before, correct? And following through with your second process of this, what is the biggest takeaway that you've discovered during your second round of the process for this?
Well, I can speak for myself. I think we actually got smarter talking to the providers.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Nice.
We didn't just say, ooh, what are you gonna do for us? Please, please, please. You know, it was like, sure, come in and chit chat with us and we'll show you what we have. You show us what you can do, and then we'll make a decision. Yeah. So again, it's the knowledge, isn't it? You know, we all came in as novices, me below novice, you know, I know how to turn the computer on and I know how to get in, but that's as far as it's going. Anything else that you guys figured that we gained off of it?
You know, if I could speak for our team,
Absolutely.
and probably others here, the knowledge we've gained from this group here training us has been immense, and I'll use a technical term, the lingo really helps. Because when we got out there, we're able to talk to people, and I keep saying you gotta say it over and over again and educate people as much as you can. When we got together with the groups, we also asked the question, why, more than once, because the first time you ask it, you know, well, geez, I know I need it, but I don't know why. And when you drill down, you get that, and then when we can come in and kind of speak the language with everybody, then you get some sort of a communication going back and forth, and eventually everybody's collaborating together for the same purpose of broadband.
Yes, and
Thank you.
and we talk a little bit different. I never talked latency a year and a half ago. I talk latency now. So you can dump my data, but what are you gonna do with it? How am I gonna, you know, and that is probably more so because of the soybean, because with us using, you know, plotting on the farms, we plot the farms, plant the farms, data up and down. So yeah, I've gotten much better about using latency because of soybean, and I talk with my husband and my kid more, so that's good, huh?
Good. Any other questions? Greg, all we can say is, come on, man.
Please.
I guess you have my full support,
Thank you.
but it's a different team, so I have no say.
Nice. That's okay. I still like you. It's all good.
Thank you, Ogle. Why don't we take a 10-minute break? So restrooms are straight to the back and to the left. And then beverages are in the coolers here, the fridges, if you're interested.
No, so the point is it's just an application, the state has, already said they don't know whether they'll fund it. So well, yes, in general, yes, it does. Because, well, that's. After it happens, and they have 17.
Yeah.
I have your number on my computer, so I was like, I will tell you that. Yeah, I'll take it.
You don't have to take a bunch, because I try to get them from whenever it's more just, it's always easier if I have my own. So, just like, at some point, just go to the back.
Yeah.
Or where you are.
Yeah, I'll just send the presenters some.
Yeah. Thank you.
It would be stupid not to look at it. But if
Less
you
choices, you're
right.
number one considered.
But if it turns out that it's all smoke and mirrors, then they'll do what, you know, sometimes they'll write to the state and say, we don't think that these guys are gonna do what they say. Yeah, but if a
Thanks, everyone. Next up is Josh from Edgar County.
Apparently we did not do a PowerPoint slide. Expected to be a wing it, I guess. Everybody else is pretty much out farming or actually they just get out of town, so.
So get closer to the edge.
Okay, yeah, I drew a short straw on this, so, just a little bit of Edgar County. Edgar County's about 18,000 people approximately. You know, most 90% of people live in the incorporated municipalities. You know, the largest is Paris. We've had a lot of interest in some providers lately that are interested in running stuff in fiber into the municipalities. I think they're kind of trying to be the first one there to get the grant money. So the problem gets to be is we got quite a few people that live out in the middle of nowhere that can't get anything besides fixed wireless. And we've got quite a few of those providers, but they're all mostly local little people that don't provide much, don't really have the, you know, the money or the desire to really go out and, you know, get fiber and stuff. They're smaller. That's a little supplemental income for them a little bit here and there. Then we got the topography issue. You know, 60% of our county is flat, and then the people that need it are in the rural trees and stuff. So fixed wireless doesn't work very well because you can't get line of sight. You can't get very good cell phone reception just because of the hills and hollers. So it's, you know, trying to get fiber to a home, you know, and there's one person every 2 miles, makes it harder to find somebody who can, you know, willing to spend that without, you know, somebody paying for it or some sort of return on investment, because our rural population is also shrinking. You know, every census we're less people in Edgar County. So, you know, it is what it is. We've had quite a bit of interest, like I said, from some fiber companies that are all trying to be in there. Paris itself, for some reason, the last 6 months has had 3 companies saying they're going to come in. One's a middle mile that's starting to turn as a DBA, as a telephone, TV, and internet provider. They're wanting to run it to they say every home inside the city limits. And they're doing that all on their own, no grants. They don't want to mess with the grant money. They'd like to do it themselves. They said there's too many hurdles. And the other 2 are trying to be the first one to get the grant money. But none of the others are wanting to pick up anybody along the way. It's what's going here. They don't want to run to any houses, anybody that, the one's willing to sell to somebody if there's somebody who's willing to do it, but we're trying to find a fixed provider. The other issue we're running into is we've had quite a bit of interest lately with some wind farms up in the flat area. So once they put those up, it's going to block some of that fixed wireless signals. And then where do you don't know ahead of time if it's going to be in the way. And then once you do, what do? You kind of have to find a new line of sight for them or whatnot. So there's those issues. And then the other issue we've had is with Frontier. They're starting to drop service instead of repairing it in the rural areas if there's only 1 or 2 lines, because they don't have to maintain copper lines anymore. They are starting to replace, in Paris anyways, with fiber. But speaking of them, we had that at our office there. I worked at the highway department, that we were getting less than a meg service, and they could provide nothing. It was less than a meg for a whole office. So we went to fiber, but that ended up being 5 megs for $350 a month. So you know, it works, and it's a lot better than what we had. You could actually stream and zoom this stuff, which we couldn't before. But we do have, like I said, a few. We have this Illinois Century Network runs through. They're a pretty good provider. So we've got the Southwest, it's not doing bad. A lot of people use cellular. On our surveys, we found that a lot of the people didn't seem to want to spend even $40 a month. So what do you consider as affordable? I mean, some of the people are showing up in Pipe Terrace that I know I pay $100 a month at home for a gigabit service. So I know it's there. But when you're saying you've got no service or nothing, and it's showing all these big unserved and underserved inside Paris where you know you can get it, and then you look in surveys, you're only willing to pay $40 a month, you're not going to get a whole lot for that. Our goal in Edgar County is to try to get 100. You know, we're wanting to hopefully have 100 upload as well, just because with the future, upload is heck of important for streaming and all that other stuff you would do. And every device you seem to buy nowadays seems to need to connect to the internet. Every appliance, every little thing wants to do something. So, like I said, a lot of our committee and stuff was farmers and that stuff. and they had, they said a lot of their stuff uses cellular, so we've been trying to work a little bit with cellular too, to see if we can't get some more towers or something. Edgar County has basically T-Mobile and AT&T, not T-Mobile, Verizon and AT&T. If you come to our county line, pretty much T-Mobile is, somehow you cross the line, no service. So I don't know what's going on with that, but we are getting at least one more Verizon tower in Edgar County is supposed to be getting built soon, so hopefully that'll help a little bit. They are doing a lot of that cellular home service, but even then, it's really kind of where you're at. Like I said, mine's pretty easy. We had 4% response we were real happy with. We pushed that real hard with Facebook and not going around to the different townships. A lot of it was, most of our respondents were more interested in the educational and entertainment aspects. I guess everybody likes to stream, nobody wants in every streaming service to have the moon now. So even our cable companies basically stopped being a cable company. They want to be an internet provider. That's Sparklight. I don't know if you know that one. We had a lot of people where they quit their service because it was just an app now. There's not even you can't even get basic cable. But like I said, fiber is becoming big. Like I said, we're going to have. They said the permitting's in Paris for that. We're working to see if they'll be willing to go to a lot of the other communities that they run to service, because they used to go to like the banks, that kind of service. So we're hoping to see if they would be providing to the other municipalities they run into to help with that, to allow people to have cable and or telephone service that route as well, if they prefer it, instead of just internet. Most of our average providers are, like I said, fixed wireless we looked at. Most of them are, it is internet. Like I said, I've always picked where I live based off what kind of internet service I could get. So, I want good internet service. I know it's necessary, and I couldn't live without it. A lot of our survey people were using cellular as their answers who they had. I think we've had a little bit of interest. We had one of the early, I can't remember which grants it was, the census block one that picked the southwest corner, but we had the issue where they cherry picked wherever, so there's holes, and now there's no way to get to those places because they've circled around. And then we've had some other ones that started running fiber in the county that we didn't even know they were doing, so we don't know if they've got grants or not on the south end. They just started running it, didn't ask anybody, and just kind of ran it. So we've been trying to get a hold of that small telecom that we've heard is the one doing it. Then somebody said they thought they got money, but like I said, they didn't ask for any right of way. I mean, I wouldn't have a department we do grants. They've got to ask for permits to cross roads. Most of our utilities, even the fiber companies, are on right of way. They usually put it on the right of way because they don't have to pay the landowner, I guess, or the other rights. But it's starting to get pretty congested. A lot of our areas that have fiber, there may be 4 fiber lines running down that road because we've got the same little thing on Route 1 where everybody wants to run fiber down the same place. So we had the issue with, you have outages all the time because they seem to keep getting cut. Every time somebody wants to put in a new field tile, they seem to cut fiber. So, I mean, more fiber you put out there, the more places it is to get cut. As a whole, it seemed like a good experience. I mean, we're working on it. We're trying to get we're trying to be out there where we can. Like I said, we also had the issue since most of those fixed wireless providers are local people that they're kind of saying, hey, we're trying to go out there and replace them, run them out of business, but then they don't, like I said, people aren't happy with the service, but they're happy because they have something, but when other people aren't happy because they can't get enough. But like I said, the matches on that stuff isn't easy. If you look at some of the requirements on these things, they have to be incorporated. It's not so easy as a landowner can't decide they want to be part of it and get it all on there. They have to be a corporation running it or whatnot too. So it's licensing, all that kind of stuff that goes along with that. And we're trying to work with them to come up with like maybe groups of people that will qualify. They're saying, hey, you put it in here and we'll sign up for this much a month. Then maybe encourage them to say, we'll find a way to put a tower or something in there and these people will automatically sign up for it. You maybe even have them prepay a little bit that they can take off their bill. Maybe they can take, but I mean, I'm thinking $1,000 a month and you get half price billing for so long to help offset that cost for these smaller people that don't have $10,000, $20,000 to put in as a match for a grant. So, just little options. Like I said, we're also working on our permanent committee. Like I said, we're a lot of farmers and small stuff. We just started this process when this opportunity came up. So we're kind of feel like we're a little behind everybody else. They've been working on it for a few years, but it's been good. We've learned a lot. I mean, there's been a heck of a lot of interest. I mean, we had, I think, 50 people that filled out paper surveys that they entered because, you know, they couldn't have enough internet to fill out the survey. Like I said, we had a lot of interest. We had a town hall. Like I said, we had a lot of, I think there was probably 100 people that came to it. The fire departments, everybody's really interested. The problem is we don't have a lot of matching funds with the county. Our ARPA and everything was already kind of pretty obligated toward other necessities. With the population of funding, we're trying to fund some stuff that never would have got done without it. So we didn't have a lot of additional funds to throw to it. We're willing to help where we can, but most of it's probably some logistics, some letter of supports. Then you have the issue of trying to hold somebody to what you want. I mean, they only have to keep to what the grant says. So if they put an application that says they're gonna do 25-5 and you want 100-100, I don't think you can keep them to that, I don't think. So, and it's a long process. A couple of these people think there's something we're gonna get tomorrow, where it's probably gonna be years if we're not, depending on how it goes. So we're working. It is what it is, I guess. And we hope to keep going. And like I said, it looks like we'll have a lot of our population will have access soon, hopefully with the next year or so, maybe with these other ones that are trying to get in these communities now. But like I said, a couple of the providers I've never heard of, so no real experience with them per se. And we'll keep it going, and hopefully that'll work.
Good, Josh, thank you. You know, for communities that haven't done a lot of work on broadband and they jump into this Accelerate program, it is a lot. And so I think it's interesting, you know, it's like me and my parents thought maybe I should have repeated a grade or two. And I think that Ogle County is a great example of, you know, that second time through, you know, all of our experience on whether it's home remodeling or whatever, you certainly have a lot more confidence on doing these new tasks once you've done it the first time. Or like me, you just hire someone the second time. And, but I think it's fun with Edgar, you know, if I'd encourage you to go back and create your PowerPoint presentation and list all the things that are happening. Because I think part of the reason you talk about, oh, wow, so now companies are building fiber in your county or want to connect your small towns that aren't connected now. And so I think there's a lot of achievement there that you can celebrate and give people that sense of momentum that things are happening. Because a lot of this is like a political campaign, public relations campaign that, you know, no one likes, you know, jump on board of a train that's not going anywhere. But if they see that moving forward, people do jump on. If you say, look at town A is getting fiber, town B is getting fiber, you know, people who are living outside that town say, well, at least now there's a chance they can see a path forward. So I just encourage you to think about it that way. Thanks, Josh. Sir.
Josh, don't shoot me that, but if there's anything we can do to help or communicate with, we would be more than willing to help you with that.
Good.
Because you've done a lot, the fact that you've got 100 residents to your open forum, that's huge. So,
Yeah, it shows the need, the desire, and I think you might remember one of our speakers, Doug Dawson. He says, well, we don't even ask what people pay anymore because they will pay a lot more than what they say. You know, that, oh, well, I want to pay $10. Who doesn't want to pay $10, right? But if it's 50, all right, I'll find that money to go, you know, to do that. And so I think that's, because people say, oh, if I say $100, that's what they'll charge. And so that, I think there's some deep psychology on some of those surveys. So I think don't be discouraged on that. although Benton's research shows that a lot of lower income families, you know, $10 or $20 is what they can really afford to pay. But thank goodness now we have the ACP program, that's another $30. So if you have 20 and the ACP does 30, now you've got $50 for the provider, you know, that's gonna carry on, hopefully, and that's part of that public advocacy message that Robbie's involved with these listening sessions, is make sure that when you hear about those, and clearly the Illinois Benton newsletter publicizes those dates and locations, get your team there, get it on record how important that program is, because that's a expensive program. And then during the pandemic, here's all the money, it's all great. Now it's gonna be lined up with a lot of other things. So what are we gonna spend money on? And so if we like that program, think it has high benefit to your rural communities, you better advocate for it.
Now, Bill, that's a really good point, because I think a lot of people mistakenly say affordability is only a problem in urban areas. And I think that the cross-cutting issue between urban and rural is the issue of affordability. And everybody can use the Affordable Connectivity Program. The funding is anticipated to run out in about mid-2024. And so a lot of groups like Benton are starting to line up in Washington to make sure that the program continues. And believe it or not, the providers really want the program to continue. There was a statistic out recently that Charter, one of the biggest cable companies, got close to, between the emergency broadband benefit and the ACP, has gotten close to $900 million to go toward affordable broadband. Meaning they're receiving those funds and deducting it from the bill, just like Bill described. So it is one of those things that the more you speak out about things like that, the better for everybody, especially these rural communities. We want to change that narrative that affordability is not important to you all too.
And I would just add on that the flip side of affordability is value. And so if you can increase the value to families, including low-income families, of what they get from that interconnection, whether that's entertainment or telehealth or access to information, schooling, if you think about it, people say, well, I can only afford $10 or $20. What does it cost to fill up the F-150, right? If you have to drive into town to go to the public access location, that's $10 right there that you're spending or more on gasoline. Broadband is a substitute for a lot of different other expenses, and so educating people about that is really important.
The providers have to be in that program, right?
Yes, they do. So when you think about provider partners, that's why in some ways the big providers are well advantaged, because they can build systems to take advantage of those dollars at scale, where Bob's ISP has to fill out paperwork at the FCC to become a eligible telecom provider, a lot of other issues there that discourages smaller companies from jumping into that.
But you did hear from Joe Carroll Energy, who does provide the ACP, and the guy in Missouri, Chariton Valley, also does. So
yes,
there are people motivated to do it, because think about it this way. Getting that $30 for those subscribers helps them with the operating cost to run the network. So it's to their advantage to sign up for the program. So,
yes,
anyway,
exactly right.
Even though it's a pain.
Yeah. And Electric Co-op has capacity as well, but like Bob's ISP or some of the ones in the smaller wireless ISPs
We're gonna have a hard time.
hard time. And next up is Schuyler from Schuyler.
Yes.
So
Yes, I'm Schuyler Isley, and my name is Schuyler. It's just like the county. I'm not named after the county. I didn't change my name because I moved to the county. I mean, there's all kinds of great things that go along with it, but, you know, it is the same name. And, I'm really honored to be here with you. Let me check my time here. Really honored to be here with you all to talk a little bit about Schuyler County and who we are. And I believe it's possible that we are probably the smallest county here. We have about 6,900 residents. We're 444 square miles. We have about 15 people almost 16 people per square mile. So we'll tell you a little bit about Schuyler County here. So maybe we'll see if we can.
Okay.
Oh yeah, good about it. There we go. All right, so want to definitely thank Bill, his team, the Illinois Soybean Association, United Soybean Council. I mean, all of those who have helped us along in this process. Kind of like Adrienne, when I saw all of the survey results that came in, we'll talk about that a little bit later. And, you know, for the resources that have been expended, it makes me really emotional. The resources that have been expended for a place like our little county is very, very, very touching. And so anyway, I won't go into that. But I do want to talk about our broadband planning team. Hello, everyone who is there. I know you're waving virtually to me, those of our team who are online, but we did have representatives from the school district, the Farm Bureau. Austin Wright is he's an attorney with the state of Illinois. Our Schuyler Counseling Center participates. So we had really good cross collaboration from all parts of our community. And so Bill had said something about, okay, this is where you really put in, you know, kind of like that clencher, the thing that says that broadband is essential for your county. And I really like to tell this story in pictures. So Schuyler County is 444 square miles. And when we think about it, we drive around rural Schuyler County, these are some of the things that you might see. And these are places, clearly. They're buildings. It's beautiful historically. But there's a lot more to Schuyler County. These are places. The things that we think about when we think about broadband are the faces. So these are the people. These are the lives, the families that are impacted by broadband in Schuyler County. They're students, they're veterans, they're parents, they're our elderly. So, you know, I wanted to show you just some pictures of who we are in Schuyler County, and these are the lives that are being impacted. Down here in the lower corner, that's Charlie Weissauer. Charlie is from Browning, Illinois, and Browning is one of the most probably underrepresented or unserved areas in Schuyler County. It's by the Illinois River. Charlie was the Schuyler County Fair Queen, and she ended up being in the top 15 in Miss Illinois. So, so there are really great things happening in Schuyler County, great people. This is, that's Gary Moreland. He runs our pharmacy. It's one of the oldest run family pharmacies in the country, has been in existence. And of course, some of the our farmers there. I won't go through, okay, so I'll just warn you, there's 60 slides. I am not gonna do every slide, but I do want to talk a little bit about just who we are, Schuyler County. Again, 6,700 people, mostly white. A larger elderly population. I don't think that surprises anyone, right? The median value of our housing is lower than the national and state averages. Our median household income is lower than the national averages. Our population per square mile is 15.8 people. So per capita income is also lower. I think an interesting thing in terms of who we are, again, is Schuyler County and Rushville. So we have a central, our county is very wide, and centrally located is our county seat, that is Rushville. We're about 2,800 people, and there's fiber in all of Rushville. That's only about 37% of the population though. So as I'll show in some maps coming up, there's about 2/3 of the county that does not have adequate internet access. In order to find out, through the program, and through Benton and all the collaborators, we were able to do our survey, and I wanted to show you some of our marketing around that. So we did a How's Your Internet campaign. We passed out business cards with the QR code. And we did some of these fun Facebook posts to kind of help increase the number of people who were responding to the survey. How many of you remember the twins, right? If you're in the farming community, you remember that from the 70s. So, oops. Sorry, I don't understand. You don't have to. Sorry, I pushed the wrong button. So this is what our county looks like. This is kind of the structure. We are in west central Illinois. So we're about 60 miles from the Mississippi River on the far western edge of Illinois. And so this is what the county looks like. Our surveys, oh my gosh. Okay, we wanted 500 responses. There are a lot of you that got 500 responses. We didn't get 500 responses. We got 310 responses. So that's 5% of our population. So we were really thrilled with that. Thank you. Thank you. And the really cool thing too is that when I look at these next, I'll show you the next map. Look at the lower 2/3, kind of in the bump. That's where we're underserved and unserved. And you'll see that that's where the survey responses came from. 97% took it from home, 86% need to connect to 5 or more devices. Nothing new about this. 96% resort to cellular use instead of using the internet. In terms of farm agriculture, the thing that I found interesting is that 54%, 67%, and 47% they're resorting to cellular too. So you can see how the fixed internet is not working for our farmers. And then also 29% reported that they were promised download speeds of 50. I got really mad reading these survey responses. Did anybody else? I was really just feeling very defensive of our citizens being taken advantage of. Really, really. I mean, paying for things that they're not getting. And there should be a law against it. Sorry. So back to this again. They're unsatisfied. 62% with affordability, 59% with speed, 55% with reliability, not satisfied. Cindy and I were talking about it on the way over. Our residents don't know what they don't know. Imagine if you didn't have high-speed internet, you really wouldn't maybe know the capabilities of what you were missing out on, right? For those of us that do have, I live in the city of Rushville. We're getting ready to move to the country. I'm a little bit nervous about it because I don't know what we're gonna have when we go 1.5 miles outside the city limits. But if I didn't know about streaming, if I didn't know about telehealth, if I didn't, if I hadn't utilized those things, it's this brand new world that would open up for our citizens who are in the country. So 30% of those hope to use it for workforce training, 26% for healthcare, and 44% for surveillance is a big thing on farms. And so we really need to have that access for them. We did a fun word frequency. I think McLean did one too. So we had 5,276 words in all of our survey comments. And you see that, look at that Look at that bad actor there, right? Yes. Just comes up in hot pink right there. Hello. Here again, and speaking of that, that particular carrier, these are where the survey responses came from, and again, those are in areas that are unserved and underserved. For CASCOM, again, another area that is unserved, and we did have a member of CASCOM on our, as you would see on our broadband breakthrough committee. Comments. Okay, so I really wanted to just choose like 4. McLean, you did such a good job, just 4 comments. I will not go through them all. You know, I think they all kind of sound similar, right, for everyone, but internet goes off a few times daily. WiMAX, CASCOM, so this is satellite or fixed wireless, except when the wind blows, of course, right? Internet's terrible, spotty, unreliable. This was interesting. I'm afraid the price will keep rising. We have no other options other than to go back to cellular hotspots. There is concern about affordability, and that was with Starlink. Starlink was getting pricier, you know, and it's really a concern. I think this is a huge, I was so enlightened about how I think maybe not uneducated, but how our citizens just don't know that there are options out there. This one said, I would like to drop Frontier, both the internet and landline, but as far as I can tell, there's no other low-cost options. So there are no other low-cost options, but we need to be promoting ACP? Are there things we can do to help those residents? Please help us get high-speed internet out here in the country. We hear about all this high-speed internet, but we just bet we'll never see it. If we do get it, I'm sure we will not be able to afford it. Oh, this person really likes NFL, and it goes in and out. I need this for medications and medical checkups. I mean, this just gets to my heart, you know. We have I think a lot of our rural counties do, we have a higher elderly population. 23% of our residents are over the age of 65. So, you know, this person wants to have surveillance cameras to feel safe. We consider leaving Schuyler County to find country property with broadband access. See, there you go in the economic development again. And this was probably my favorite, or not my favorite, but the most compelling to me when this individual who's over 65 says for peace of mind, you know, they want to be able to know that they can get help when they need it. And it's scary to have an emergency and not be able to reach anyone to help me. I mean, that is so compelling to me about who we are as a county. I have to do a shout out to the 17 people who attended the digital equity listening sessions in Macomb yesterday. As Cindy and I were driving out here, I said it was 17 people. And then I thought, this is 1 square mile in Schuyler County. So that represents 1 square mile of our, and so again, that was an opportunity for them to, in person, voice what they, you know, some of the things that they were feeling about the internet. So thank you, Robbie, for giving us that opportunity. Our broadband vision, county-wide fiber optic network. That was a really tough decision to make. But we are not, a hybrid strategy is not what we're interested in. We are going for a fiber optic network countywide in Schuyler County that affords every person, family, visitor, business, and farm with the opportunities of high-speed, reliable internet. Some of our broadband insights, okay, so this is when we started out broadband breakthrough. Now we have this map here which shows the underserved, and that's by population density. I had the same trouble that our friends from Ogle had. My title is underneath the, so anyway, it's okay though, no worries. No worries, I can do it. So this is by population density, and so—
unserved areas all fixed.
Yes, yeah. So and unserved in the unserved areas. And you can see then it's down in the bump there, we call it down in the bump. I like this better. This is what Shabika did for us. Oh, thank you. This is what Shabika did for us. And so you can see all those little brown dots. We have mapped every single address in Schuyler County. So those are where people live. So that shows our density. There were 2,200 households, so we were able to give Shabika a list of all of our addresses, and she mapped those, she put those on there. So I like that better as a representation of density rather than the other maps that are provided. Talking, Illinois Soybean Association, when you move that down, I think it decided to stop working.
Your clicker's not working?
My clicker is not working. There we go. Okay, so here's another variation of that map. This essentially shows the fiber access. So anything in white is unserved and underserved for us. It's pink on that, well, kind of pinky brown. Here it is again, access by fiber. This is fixed broadband, 1 by 1. It's fiber. Essentially, it's the same representation. So, what are we going to do? So you've seen the maps, you've seen where we have this kind of this big area that's it's a pocket that doesn't have, it's not really a pocket, it's, I don't know, it's kind of like a handbag. It's big. So what are we going to do? We are going to, so we look at these guiding principles that we have, and there are 3 guiding principles. We've decided that Schuyler County is not going to be in a situation we're not going to have our own cooperative. We just don't have the bandwidth. We don't have the resources. I'm an office of 1. I want to recognize Sydney DeWeese, who is our Peace Corps Fellow through Western Illinois University. So she's been helping us out. But we really don't have the capability to be able to do our own cooperative in Schuyler County. So really what we're looking at is working more closely in a strategic way with our providers, and we'll talk about that. So communication, coordination, and education. Those are our 3 guiding principles as we go forward through 23 and 24. Those could certainly evolve as we look at different options for broadband. So our goal 1 is continued communication. We're going to continue to work with our broadband committee. Congratulations, McLean, on doing your big, rollout today. We will continue to work with what we call Beyond Broadband, and our logo is down there in the lower corner. So we'll continue to work with that committee. We really want to get to our city and county officials in a more specific way, talking about the importance of broadband and showing them this presentation, showing them the resources that we have gotten through Beyond Broadband Breakthrough. And really trying to find some good farm advocates so we can really have some good coffee shop conversations. There's more data to be gathered. There's more information that we can dive into in Schuyler County. And so this is something that will be important to, and local state legislators. Goal 2, coordinating with our ISPs. We have 3, we're gonna say 3 ISPs in Schuyler County who are active, who have been working with us. McDonough Telephone actually is also in the Hancock cohort, and Cascom, and then Adams Fiber. So we're gonna continue working with them. Our strategy is to really collaborate. We'll see in a couple of minutes how I have an idea about how we can kind of parcel out the county. Everybody's gonna kind of have to play nice in the sandbox, but I think we can really, really communicate and collaborate with them all to make it happen. We're having an executive summit on June 16th that will include McDonough Telephone, Cascom, and Adams Fiber. The executives of each of those organizations and their staff teams will come in. We'll have a little planning session, and then we'll have lunch. So just simple little executive summit, but I think that will be the baseline for our planning more specifically. More information gathering. As I said, there's more to be learned from the data in Schuyler County. We do want to explore a feasibility study to really get a CapEx for that fiber build out in Schuyler County. We think we can partially fund that with ARPA. We were really late to the party. Our ARPA funds were way long spent by the time we started this 16 weeks ago. So there's a few drops in the bucket that maybe we can go after, which I do want. We will pursue that with the county, but you know, we're going to be grasping at whatever we can to go after that. But I think we might be able to partially fund feasibility study so that we can get to that. I really want to know, what's it going to cost to build out our county? We need to have that information. It's so important. More utilization of our hunting lodges, those community centers. We need to map each of those. There's a lot of hunting lodges in Schuyler County, and they do bring in a lot of dollars, and we need to map those in coordination with our unserved and underserved areas, and also with our fiber access. And then parceling the county into zones, and so this is kind of my rudimentary drawing. The blue, we're in an awesome situation, I feel, that we have a fiber. It's like a wagon wheel. It's a hub right in the middle of the county. So Rushville is right in the center there. That big blue dot, that's all fiber. And then we've got some bluebird going in a couple of places coming out. I guess, coming down from the top, that's bluebird. Then going across Schuyler County and cutting across that swath, that was just put in, that's US 24. Adams Fiber did that. Part of that's also bluebird. So we have a lot of opportunities here to kind of have that backbone. And so what we need to do is really look at these different areas as kind of zones as we parcel out the county and think about how we can get coverage in each of those areas or zones. That's something that we'll be talking about in our executive summit on June 16th. Engaging agriculture is really important, and I am so thankful that we've had the opportunity to be a part of this specialty cohort, because our agriculturalists, our farmers, anyone who's in that, I guess, profession, in that business in Schuyler County, this is life-changing for them. We need to continue to engage them. We do have 54 contacts that we can talk with about easements, right-of-ways, and vertical assets. Our farming community, we're a small county. So small that it's kind of tight-knit. And our farming community, as we looked at the survey, we weren't sure how favorably, and the Farm Bureau advised us that they might not look, as to get farmers to take the survey, that they might not look favorably on asking for information about vertical assets and easements. They might get a little bit standoffish about that, and that they might feel like the survey was in some way, that there was something on the backside, that we were trying to get information that farmers tend to be a little finicky that way. I think Ogle, do you agree? Okay. So we decided that we were not going to put that into the survey, but we did get email addresses. And so our approach is really more one-on-one, reaching out with those, and we know them. I mean, everybody knows everybody in Schuyler County. So those 54 contacts we can reach out to personally, have a coffee shop talk, have lunch, and really build that from, and steward those relationships so that we can make sure that they're going to, so there's an opportunity there. And we think about easements, especially, and right-of-ways and the vertical assets. We also really want to continue this discussion of the yield benefits. And so we're, looks like about 2.1 million is what we could experience in Schuyler County when it comes to, looking at how yield could be affected by broadband access.
How are you doing, Robbie?
Good.
Playing games.
I'm trying to hide this thing.
So our goal 5, so the other thing that we really want to do as part of broadband breakthrough and is beyond broadband, we want to think specifically about digital equity and really building a digital equity plan. We want to utilize our broadband survey results to do that. And we also want to encourage interaction with the community. We need to talk about normalizing the term digital equity. A lot of our residents don't understand that. They don't know what digital equity is. They just think they don't have the internet. And so when people talk about digital equity, it's kind of up here. And so we need to normalize that so that they understand that, access to the internet, as somebody said in one of their survey comments, it's not a luxury anymore. It's essential. And everyone should have access to high-speed broadband internet. So that's building the digital equity plan. Our funding opportunities, again, our ARPA funds, we are late to the party, so ARPA was spent, so we definitely Reconnect 3, and a part of our strategy that is so important, I think is very understated, is that we are no longer leaving anything up to chance. We haven't been at the table in these conversations until the last probably the last 6 months. I was talking with ISPs as a part of my role in economic development probably about 6 months ago. Because we had identified broadband as an initiative for Schuyler County that we wanted to make a priority, but we didn't know how to do it. So thank you, Bill, thank you, Adrian, thank you everyone for helping us to figure out how to do that. But we really have to, and I totally lost my train of thought, I'll be honest about that.
Not leave it to chance.
Not leave it to chance, yes, not leaving anything to chance. So working with our ISPs to strategically look at Schuyler County and be an active participant in that, an active role player. So that means providing them with information for grant funds or for grant applications, helping them to, we know our county better than anyone. We have to advocate for ourselves. We can't just leave that to chance and let somebody put in a $5 million application for a grant for a fiber build out in our county and just think, well, I don't like to lose. So, so anyway, those are the funding opportunities that obviously that we're looking at. And finally, again, thank you all. Thank you so much. Thank you to all of our collaborators and especially to our committee. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I don't thank them over here, not over there.
Any questions for Schuyler?
You're amazing, you need to go on the road is all
I
I can
told
say.
her bring you to DC with her.
Greg, go ahead.
Really great.
I was very curious on the comment about hunting lodges.
Yeah.
As a community center.
Mm-hmm.
So the state soon will have to develop, so they'll take the FCC's map, figure out served, unserved, and then they're gonna have to develop their own challenge process. And part of that is defining community institutions. And I haven't talked to Matt, it's, there's just a lot of leeway the state has in defining those, and potentially then connecting them with one being service. I would just be curious, and that's part of the listening tour that they're doing is sort of getting information on all different topics. But the concept, traditionally in schools, hospitals, libraries, but that was just a really curious thing you said, and there's potentially a broader definition that could help.
I think when you're in a rural area like Schuyler County, you have to get creative like that because we do have a centralized location of being Rushville being right in the center of the county, and there are in the outlying areas there's there's very little, a lot of that is residential. The only business that really is outside of our center in the county are the hunting lodges. I mean, we have a few small rural little burbs that maybe have a church and
Post office maybe.
a post office maybe, but they don't have, we do have Browning, Illinois has a community center where it's a senior center and they serve breakfast a couple days a week or lunch. But I think from the standpoint of, kind of re-envisioning that community anchor institutions or like a community center, there are a lot of people that come and go from those places. And so, usually it's a place that has a lot of activity. It's, there's a lot of engagement. They might not be people that actually live in the community, but they're people that are in the community. They're visiting the community. There's a lot of coming and going. So a lot of activity there. So that's kind of where we kind of came up with that, but
I think
sorry.
it's called community antler institution.
That's right. That's right. I like that.
I know. New logo.
Driving the tourism and just thinking about ways to find, we really are gonna have to get, creative about that, but, so. Sorry if that was an incorrect use of terminology.
No. Applicable.
Good.
Other questions or comments?
I love the way you're tackling your farmer community. I think that's a really smart. I mean, you have 54 people that you could reach out to. It's not insurmountable. I think McLean tried to do that. They'd be having meetings for months. So I think for you, you picked a strategy that's really right for your location. And I wouldn't underestimate this issue of tourism dollars into the county, like the yield on your ag, that those people who come from bigger cities who want to be out there hunting, they want internet. So, I've heard this over and over. We've talked with people in Maryland or Virginia that go, to the western part of their states and have vacation homes coming from DC and they can't get connected. And so, what those communities are thinking about is those people with second homes or with sort of a tourist industry, whatever it is, hunting, fishing, just being out in the woods, they're used to having that as an asset.
It is.
So it's important for you to have that to keep the county economic development.
Exactly, and it affects we had one individual yesterday at the listening tour in Macomb who, she and her husband have, it's called Piece of Earth Lodge, and it's like a bed and breakfast, but it's way out in the country. And I think in about 7 years, they want to retire and sell their lodge. They're gonna have a lot of trouble selling it as a bed and breakfast model because they have no internet. So, it affects the resale of those types of properties too. So it does have an influence in the business climate, definitely. And the hunting lodges are the same way, so.
I love your messaging around not leaving it to chance. I think that's a very friendly way. It's not antagonistic. Like,
Thank you.
maybe in McLean, oh man, do we want them here or not? We want to have our big influence on how we're served, for the next 30 years. So that's really important.
We have opportunities, I think, because we are so small, to really have those touch points and to have those conversations that are meaningful. But it's challenging, obviously, from a financial standpoint.
Well, we can't wait to hear what's going on after June 16th.
Oh, yeah.
Can we get these people to do the zones that
Yeah.
you carved out, the slopes of the wheel?
I don't know, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
I don't know,
Like your
Jay, are you
messaging
still
that
on?
for
We'll
the
see, right?
executive session.
Yeah, the executive session, nice. Great.
Good, well, I want to thank you. And I want to recognize all the people who are with us virtually. We're gonna go have our lunch now for about 30 minutes or so, and then we'll come back and hear Hancock's presentation. And then I have a very brief presentation that I've just created, brand new, about kind of next steps for communities beyond the infrastructure. And I was really excited to hear about the digital equity focus too, which is goes hand in glove with infrastructure ideas. So Lunch is just down the hallway here, and the food is all laid out, ready to go.
Bill, what time do you think we'll be through?
Excuse me?
What time do you think we'll be through?
I would say 30 minutes. Good stuff. Report's already ready.
Actually, it's amazing as the questions that I did. Yeah.
rural broadband.
Also,
Sorry, I just needed it because I thought.
And I've driven every single one of them.
that's why we're happy.
Good. Lunch was delicious. And so we've got a short stint left here. We're gonna hear from Hancock County, and then I'm gonna do my presentation, and then we'll have any kind of last minute reflections and recognition and thank you. So we'll definitely be out of here on time. Sam, thank you so much. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Sam Harnack. I'm with Hancock County Economic Development. I am the executive director, and I guess I'm the Hancock team lead. We're getting this sorted out here. So I, of course, have to be a little different. We don't have a PowerPoint presentation. Roger Pavey with WIRC was fantastic, and he put together this is actually like its own little website. There it is, yes. So this is our hit. So we started out with, this whole broadband thing is new to us as well. Hancock County is straight west, about 2.5 hours. We are on the Mississippi River, and Schuyler borders our lower southeast corner. So we have kind of some similarities in some ways and others. And in fact, it's funny because every presentation I've heard tonight, I'm like, oh yeah, that's kind of us too. So there's a little similarity in every place. So keep in mind, I don't know what everybody is going through exactly, but I do have a pretty good idea, at least pieces of it. So that being said, Roger Pavey did put this presentation together as part of we were trying to get more people involved in taking the surveys, because the thing that I have told everybody is you cannot know where you're going if you don't know where you're starting. You can't figure out how to get there. We had to figure out where we are. We didn't have any data. People are like, what are you gonna do after this? We're like, we don't know yet, because until this is done, until you take these surveys, we can't figure that out. So Roger put this together, and it was amazing. We linked it to our website. This is our Hancock County Courthouse, as potentially, as earlier mentioned, one of the most beautiful in the state of Illinois. We're claiming that. Find me a better one and prove me wrong. So, a big portion of this. Okay, and I'm sorry, I've gotten ahead of myself. I do want to say thank you to the Benton Institute, to everybody. Grace, thank you for being at all of our sessions. All of the sponsors, everybody has been great. You guys have all been really helpful. I was at the January 12th meeting here, and several of us had really great conversations, just giving us, Ogle County, you guys pointed in some directions. Edgar, you guys had some great stuff. So thank you all for participating in this, because this is what we need, obviously. This is a big deal. Again, this website was really kind of beginning as an educational tool for our citizens, are the words I'm thinking. Constituents is what I was trying to come up with, but that's not it. So just explaining a little bit of what it is that we're looking for from them. We talk a little bit about what fiber is and why we need it. And then I love this because isn't Wi-Fi good enough? In some cases it really is. In some cases it's what you're going to get. Fiber is the basis for everything. And all of us know that, but not everybody does. Not all of your citizens know that. And so it's really important in my, because people are like, oh, I've got Wi-Fi. Well, yes, you do, but it could be better. And without fiber, you're not going to get Wi-Fi because, again, you've got to be connected somewhere. So this is one of my favorite things is it says we're focused on the connection between your home and the internet. What you do inside your home is your own business. So we don't worry about that. We want to make sure that you have the connection to your home and get there. So we talk about a little bit about the rural digital divide. I think we're all here because we all know exactly what that is. In Hancock County, we have about, let's see, 17,600 according to the 2020 census. We have there's one town that is 3,200 people. We have, and that is not the county seat. I believe it is 2,400 people in Carthage. And every year, every census, those get a little bit smaller. And we are trying to figure out what in the heck can we do. Without broadband, without fast, reliable internet service, we are not going to be able to compete with anyone. We are directly across the river from Keokuk, Iowa. There are a lot of people, I mean, honestly, it is less than 5 minutes to get there. You can walk across the bridge in 5 minutes, and so it's, in a lot of cases, it's less expensive to live. It's gonna be, so what is it that we are gonna have? Because I'll tell you what, Keokuk, Iowa doesn't have is fast, reliable internet service. We have, and I'll get to who has it and who doesn't in Hancock County, but one of the things we do have is a really varied topography. We've got a lot of farmland, we've got a lot of forest, and we have a lot of rock based on the fact that we're right up against the Mississippi, and sometimes fiber can't go through there. So we aren't looking for a fiber only, Schuyler County had talked about how you want fiber everywhere. That's awesome. That's not feasible for us right now. Potentially in the future, that could be a really great thing. For right now, that's not where we're at. So that being said, we talk a little bit how fast is fast enough. Some of you may play video games. I do. Roger talks about how long it takes to download the 57 gigabyte Call of Duty Warzone, okay? And he says it's a video game in case you don't know. So if you click on, and this can be found on growhancock.com under the broadband, so anybody who wants to take a look at this again in the future, please feel free. It'll take you 38 minutes for, if you are in the unserved 25 download 3 up. It will, and that is 2,252 residents in Hancock County are dealing with that. And that's based on, the statistics that we have. So move up a little bit to the, a little more served, 9 minutes and 30 seconds. You've got 61% of households who have this speed. Most of us live in the town. Like we are served, and most of them are in some town. I believe there's only one of our major towns, and by major, we're talking about 1,000 people. So, take that with the grain of salt it deserves. That has, Nauvoo is probably our largest tourist draw in the county, and they have terrible internet service. So it's a real problem. We're working towards getting there. MTC is working with us. They're actually part of our team. Jay Griswold has either been at or zoomed into almost all of our meetings, and so it's been really fantastic. So, and then 57 seconds if you've got a gig. And that's, symmetrical, so there you go. I don't need my video games downloaded in 57 seconds, so no, I do not have a gig symmetrical speeds. Got a little quiz for people who are trying to learn. You can find, you can connect the dots here, and so if you, connect this with the correct one. Oh, I'm getting this all mixed up. So I'm gonna do some correct and some, I can't see very well. I've got my glasses sitting here, sorry guys. So yeah, so I got 2 out of 3 incorrect, or 2 out of 4, pardon me. But it offers a little education in this process as well. The We Need Your Help was based on the fact that we wanted people to take our survey. And there was a link to the survey, and then once we finished it up, we want people to understand. We want people involved. We're trying to get more and more people knowing what they're talking about and knowing why they should want it. I think I'm listening to everyone's goals, and they're fantastic. But at lunch, I was just saying, a lot of you guys have, we're talking about, the digital equity and affordability. That's all wonderful. We just need everybody connected. Then we'll talk about that. And of course, those things are on our mind. We can't, it's not, it's not mutually exclusive. We can't just say, okay, first we're doing this, and then later on, we'll ignore it until, but for right now, we gotta get everybody connected. So that's our main focus. In Hancock County, this map talks about who lacks in connectivity. The red are the unserved, the blue are the underserved, and the unshaded is served. So that's the 100 download speeds and 20 upload speeds. we're doing pretty well. Carthage is our county seat, that's that big white section in the middle. I'm sorry, I take that back, that's not the big white section in the middle, it's that tiny little dot off to the side of the big white section in the middle. I still can't quite figure out why Alvaston has such great service, because it's, you know, a town of, I don't know, 100 people maybe, and a grain elevator. It's got a great grain elevator. So, but it's fantastic. I mean, that could be it. Yes. Well, oh, I take that back. I just remembered. They have a CO2 pump going through there. So yes, that's it. So that being said, you know, we've got these areas with fast internet. MTC is coming in, and they're pushing hard. They're doing great. We love MTC very much. We have Adams Fiber. They are south of us, and I've talked to the CEO of Adams Fiber. They're doing great things in Adams County, but they aren't necessarily interested in coming north much further than they already are. So it's not that they're out. You know, we still consider them, we still talk to them, we just don't necessarily rely on them as much. We've also got a small local provider called LaHart Telephone Company, and you know, and then another fixed wireless called Full Speed. Other than that, we also have Frontier, Mediacom, you know, kind of the other regular players. So, all right, and then this also allows you to kind of go into the Illinois broadband maps, to kind of create your own map. So we're trying to help people understand that if you have further questions and you don't necessarily want to call and talk to somebody like me, then, you know, you don't have to. It's great stuff. All right, so this gets into our survey results. We had 512 surveys come back to us, households of people. We were, yes, thank you. So we were very excited about that. We had hoped for 500, well, we hoped for more, and we did. We got, you know, we got, that was 3% of our population. We were right in the middle of everybody, so I guess that's good. That being said, I think it was 90% of those were households, but a mix of those, of that 90% were also farms. We spoke to, oh my gosh, I went to city council meetings. I went and talked to our farm bureau. I mean, we had people send stuff out. One of our team members is the head of our local rural electric company, and he put it out in the bills. I was on the radio, I was on TV. I mean, I'm tired of talking about broadband. That being said, I'm not done. So, yeah, the listening sessions last night, I was thinking to myself, oh good, I can just listen. And we ended up talking, so it was fine. So our survey analysis, you know, it really did talk about, basically it allowed us to come up with 3 real priorities for our future development. The first one is supporting the development and implementation of precision agriculture by bringing broadband access to Hancock County farmers. That is a huge, huge goal of ours. I love this whole website thing is fantastic because it's super interactive here. It talks about modern farming. 39 of the respondents who reported no internet access are agricultural. Now, you tell me how much money. I mean, those of you who are farmers, I'm not a farmer, sorry. I've always lived inside of cornfields somewhere, you know, until I moved out to Wyoming. But I know that's leaving a lot of money on the table. So let's see, the second one, let me come back up here so I don't mess it up. Supporting education, healthcare, business development, telework options, and bringing broadband access to every Hancock County home. Our mission, the vision at the very beginning that we discussed, we wanted it very broad. It was fast, reliable internet service for all of Hancock County. Simple and hopefully, I mean, it doesn't specify fiber, it doesn't specify, you know, Wi-Fi or fixed wireless, anything like that. It just says we want it to be fast and reliable, and so that everybody has the options. Let's see here. More than 3,000 Hancock County homes are unserved and let me try that again, in unserved and underserved areas. For rural residents lacking high-speed broadband currently, 25% of surveys respondents hope to use their internet connection for education. 25 hope to use their internet connection to operate home-based businesses, and 28 hope to use their internet connection for remote work and telecommuting. That's huge. I mean, those are big numbers, and that's just of the respondents. So that's a pretty big deal for us. And then I mentioned Nauvoo. Our third kind of focus area is better serving Nauvoo, where many of the residents lack fast, reliable internet service. That being said, I'm part of the Nauvoo Chamber, and speaking to them, they have no less than 60 buses of 50 people each scheduled to come through Nauvoo this summer to come and take a look at the historic sites as part of the LDS pageants that they put on. It's one of the only pageants left in the United States. The LDS Church doesn't necessarily do them. They don't not support them, but they're not sponsoring them throughout the United States as much anymore. So Nauvoo has this, and they have some of the worst cell and internet service in our county. And it's, as the economic developer who's, you know, who has a goal in their strategic plan for tourism, it's horrific. So I really want, and I know that they want to do better, and I know, but they've got, there's some, you know, MediaCom came through not too long ago and said, oh yeah, we're gonna put in all this great, you know, fiber to home, and they didn't quite represent themselves the way that, you know, that they should have, I think. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm overstepping here a little bit, but the fact of the matter is that they don't have fast, reliable internet service. That's one of our big goals, because it's really the last town in the county left that we're not focusing on yet. And I'm calling, again, town like major population. We have about 9 of them. Everything else is kind of a township, so, and county run. So, our vertical assets, which I'll be honest, until I was in this program, I had no idea what that even was. So, you know, again, thank you for the education. 65% of farmers and agribusinesses surveyed reported a willingness to host fixed wireless equipment on a grain leg or other vertical asset on their farm. People want this service. They want to be able to participate. Hang on half a second here so I can read what I'm doing here.
What was the percentage, Sam?
65. Yes. So this is the LiDAR map vertical assets. As you can see, we have quite a few, right? So that works out. These are the survey applicants. It's actually, so the red is no, the green is yes. We've got a pretty good widespread area that's saying, you know, and you know what, Schuyler, I really like the idea of like, I kind of wish we hadn't asked, because maybe we could have educated a little bit, but at this point, we're gonna do it anyway. We're gonna try to educate and say, here's why that could work out for you, you know, because, you know, you were saying that like a lot of people are a little bit, you know, they keep their assets close to the vest, and they don't want to just say, oh yeah, sure, I'm out for that, because they don't know what they're agreeing to just yet. So potentially, that could be, you know, we could end up with more. There's some vertical asset maps that people can take a look at. These are our providers. We've got Adams and Comcast, Frontier, the bad guy in the room, I think. Sorry. Full Speed, which is one of our it's one of our fixed wireless providers. One of those smaller guys. MTC and La Harpe Telephone Company are both in there. We've got I mean, I would love for you guys to come through. I don't want to take up too terrible much time. I want to keep everybody here longer than they need to be. But there's a lot going on with our internet service providers. So having options isn't one of our big problems. We have options. What's effective? What's enough? What's right for the you know, personal, or for the business, for the home, depending on what you're using it for. That's where we're trying to find out, and that's what we've received from a lot of this information. So, based on the fact that this was supported, you know, sponsored by Illinois Illinois Soybean Growers Association. Sorry, I've got a mouthful today. We wanted to really focus on agriculture. We have the Director of Farm Bureau and the Farm Bureau, Hancock County Farm Bureau board president were both part of our team. And I cannot tell you how absolutely amazing that was. We also had some people join us from the Professional Swine Management and Carthage Veterinary Service, the hog farms that are local. I've got Rochella with us today. I cannot tell you, I mean, again, I'm not a farmer. You know, without that information, it's really hard for me to understand the impact, and I think that's a lot of people. But I do know that 70%, in 2021, 70% of our GDP was ag. We have to focus on this for these people. We took a farm tour when Bill came into Hancock County, and it's a huge. They have huge hog farms. They've got, you know, crop rows. I believe they call it a closed loop system. The amount of information that they have got, they actually have huge farms in Brazil, and they said that we could do so much more if we just had better internet service. But right now they're technically underserved, or well, I guess technically they're unserved, because the only people who can get there are one of the fixed wireless, and they've got that, and they were talking about how the grain bins cause problems because of the amount of waves in the corrugated metal around the, just things that I would never have thought about, and that you don't understand until you really get there. And so why this makes such a difference, we got to go and see it firsthand. It was pretty cool. Let's see here. So, a research study by Catherine Lopiccolo in 21 found that doubling the number of homes in a county with the 25 down and 3 up internet access led to a 3.6 increase in corn yields and a 3.8% increase in soybean yields. The study also found the internet access led to decreases in farm inputs for fertilizer and seed expenses. Now, again, not a farmer, don't know exactly what that implication means. It sounds pretty important. We did add the Lopiccolo study and another study called For the Future of Farming. Let's see here. Try this with my glasses on. That works, that's better, sorry. As you get older, this is the hard amount here. This is the distance that I don't love. All right, so we talk about some increased production. We have, after looking at all of this, corn and soybean alone could potentially be increased $8.2 million in our county. And for those of you with smaller counties like Hancock, you know how important those kinds of dollars are. It makes a huge difference. You can see our maps here for the unserved and underserved. A massive amount of corn and soybeans are in the unserved side of this. And it's, again, it's a little scary. So we gotta get these guys served. The gross domestic product that I mentioned, the 70% in 2021, pork production, corn and soy, $616.8 million. That's huge. We talk a little bit about the overall economic impact. The direct impact we have here. The total, the $8.2 million. The indirect impact, the business-to-business purchases, the supply chain stuff. People that having trucking companies come through and use our gas at the gas station locally, those types of things. We're looking at, just with corn and soy, $2.9 million. The induced impact, the values stemming from household spending after removal of taxes, the savings, commuter income, and the induced effects are generated by local spending at all businesses. Some people refer to this dollar as the turning over in the economy. And we looked at that about $1 million. So the overall impact is over $12 million that could be potentially made in Hancock County. All right. Now, everybody's talked, well, not everybody, a lot of us have talked about MTC. We are so grateful and blessed to have MTC. I think Schuyler can agree. They're fantastic, and recently they were awarded a Reconnect grant of $18 million. 16 million of that has to be spent in Hancock County. And they have, yes, so we are, and people, you know, Sydney came in and congratulated me. I said, I did nothing. I didn't do this. Jay Griswold and his team with MTC, they went after this, they got it, they're doing amazing things in our county, and again, I could not be more grateful. They had said at one point that this was going to be about 5 years for rollout. They've reduced that number to about 4 years, so in the next 4 years, we're hoping to see all of that completed and potentially new money coming in. So we're looking for more of those grant dollars that are coming in, and we are here to support. We also did learn of another company that had received approximately $4 million in grants called NextLink. They're a fixed wireless company. We spoke to them the last day of the planning sessions, and then I just spoke to him yesterday again. They already have 3 towers up in Hancock County, and we were like, when did that happen? You know, we were questioning what happened. He said, oh no, there was a mailer sent out. I was like, I don't think there was, because I didn't see it, and I've been looking. So.
And what grant funds did they get, Sam?
Oh, this isn't my computer. I was going to look it up. I'll have to let you know, because
okay.
it's RDOF, and there was another one, CAF. Okay. Gosh.
CAF.
CAF. Yes, that's it. I was like, gosh, I can visualize it. So yes. So they got some of each of those. It's just a little bit over $4 million. So again, cannot say how blessed we are, because we've done very little work, and these internet service providers are coming in with their own funds and their own funding, and now we're going, okay, wait a minute, we got to backtrack and figure out how to support these guys. So it's good stuff. We are, you know, there's unprecedented grant funding coming up. You guys know this as well as I do. A lot of the time it requires local matching money, and so that's really where we're headed, is looking to the municipalities, looking to the county government, you know, farmers, maybe the co-ops, maybe the Farm Bureau, I don't know who. We're gonna look for money wherever we can find it. You know, if it's growing on a tree, we're gonna go plant trees. So I mean, that's kind of where everybody is, but I will say that from the perspective of, this is our Grow Hancock Broadband, you know, that's kind of the thing we use to push it out. And this is our team. We have somewhere between 10 and 15 people from all of these different organizations take time out of their day for 16 weeks, 2 hours a week or more, to come and do this. And I cannot tell you how grateful I am, because I could not have done this by myself. So we had an amazing team. You know, really at this point, we're going to take this presentation, again, I've put it on my website. I would like to go, Rochelle and I have been talking about the idea of kind of town hall, kind of education meetings, going into every community and saying, hey, let us have some time in your community, and bringing in people to help explain and you know, offer information about what is broadband, what is fiber, why is it different from fixed wireless. What does that have to do with Wi-Fi? You know, how does it work your phone? That kind of thing. Because I think there's a lot of people, specifically, again, we also have a little bit of an aging population in Hancock County. And I think there's a lot of people who don't quite understand what it is that we're talking about very often. So we want to educate. I'll be presenting to our county board. I'd like to start a steering committee. Yesterday at the listening sessions, we heard from Knox County at the governmental session, and they've started a steering committee, and I'm going to be pushing pretty hard for our team to be able to have some people that can help with that as well. So that's it for now. If anybody has any questions.
Sam, do you know, once these grant dollars are expended that are already lined up for the county, what will your ramp look like?
That's tough to say with as many internet service providers as we have. I know that MTC on their Facebook page has where they're at and where they're going to be, but doesn't show any of the other providers, so we're actually gonna be talking to Shavika to see if we can kind of overlay who's covering where. So that we can have that kind of thing. And I will say, I forgot to mention that MTC grant, I believe is my numbers could be slightly off, but I believe it's 955 homes and 45-ish businesses that will be connected through that grant. So, and then the $4 million that McLean got, I don't know exactly how many, again, I don't have that information, but it's pretty amazing. So we're very excited. So, good stuff.
Adrienne?
I just want to make a comment, which I'm sure everybody in this room is incredibly jealous of Roger.
We are.
So I want to give you a special shout out. That website is just amazing. Thank you so much.
It's very, very cool. Roger Pavey couldn't be here today. He's in, I believe he's in Springfield.
I'm shouting.
Yes, shouting loud. Yes, so hopefully he'll look at me. But yes, it was amazing to have him on our team. He's with WIRC and he's our grant guy too. He's had 28 years of grant experience. He's the guy, I mean, when I say we're blessed, I mean, we're just, maybe it's dumb luck, I don't know. We're just in the right place at the right time for this because between MTC and WIRC, we are poised to bring in, to bring more internet to more people in our county, and it's a really great thing. We all know why it's needed.
I want to remind you that you and I sat next to each other in January, and you looked at me and you said, I'm a complete newbie, I know nothing
No
about
idea what I was
this."
talking about.
And I just want to say, it makes Bill and I very warm and fuzzy when somebody comes in and says, I knew nothing about this before, and can get up and make a presentation.
Yes, and I'll tell you, I really have learned so much through this, so thank you guys, thank you to the Soybean Associations. We are so much further along than there's no way. I've told other people about this program and they're like, how did you get involved? And I was like, dumb luck. I don't know. Like, somebody said we needed it and somehow we ended up on the list. So it was good stuff.
That is definitely a big reason why we love hearing from people who had such a positive experience, and it's because we will have to recruit 10 more counties. Now there are 42 of the 102 that are soy producing.
Wow.
And so we've got, 5 of you here, and of course the Johns did kind of analysis in 14 counties, of which some of which we work. So it's just really important that you all spread the word and try to help us recruit. Schuyler and I were talking about the challenges around recruiting small counties who think that they can do the work. And I think you've had good examples of counties that are in that 20,000 and under range. Ogle at 50, and McLean, of course, is off the map for this group. But, Edgar and Hancock and Schuyler are in that sweet spot of 75 counties in Illinois have under 20,000 people. So just please spread the word, the small guys who can really have the benefit from this, we appreciate it. And Bill's gonna now give a presentation, talk about all that upside.
No, I think that's, I do wanna say one more thing.
Anybody else have questions for Sam? Great job, guys, everybody.
One last thing is the education piece that I'm finding for us, and I don't know if many of you, I mean, some of you are county board members, I'm noticing that it's not just residents, it's county officials, it's community officials, it's business owners. People are not aware of what they're talking about a lot. So if you're, I think if we can all kind of stay in connection and try to figure out how to connect with these people, and I've picked up things that I want to do from each of your presentations, so thank you all.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
If you just make a pitch that I happen to know a couple of really great faculty members at ISU, that if those other counties need some assistance, they do not have to start from scratch. We have a couple of folks with some dollars to assist them, who I think we could probably talk into helping those other counties so that they can just keep rolling along and don't have to they don't feel like they're on their own when they start this out.
That's great. That's great. Thank you.
I'd love to piggyback on that. A reminder, as if you have folks that might benefit from this information, much of the broadband video archive is available on the Extension YouTube website. So there's a very rich resource for folks who, whether you want to, well, for those of us who've gone through it, you know it's there. But just think to remind folks that these things are all in recorded form and available.
Yeah, Mike has actually been a consistent presence for us now through a couple of sessions, and we really appreciate you, Mike. Not only this, but he was in an Accelerate working with Whiteside, was it? No. What was the other county? Whiteside, there you go. So anyway, it's great to have you here, thank you.
Can't get rid of me.
Good, we like
Good.
those advocates.
And one, you know, a real unsung hero of our program is Nancy O'Drago. And so earlier this week I was on McLean County, took the advantage to spend time one-on-one with Nancy to go through survey results. And you know, what you received from her is kind of a drop of what is actually possible with all the data that's collected. You know, you can mix and match by geography, by provider, all those different factors that are collected in that survey, and you just really have to ask. And so that is still available to people. If you want to email Nancy and say, hey, we'd like a one-on-one where maybe one or two or three people who are kind of data nerdy folks want to sit there and go through that survey and think about the possibilities, think about the questions you have, what if, what about, and if you can kind of think about those and pose those questions, you can start to link different data. You know, she's got something called pivot tables, which you know, can combine any of those elements and get, oh, there's 20% of the people who are A, B, C, and D, right? You know, most of the data you get is everyone is this or everyone is that. But so looking at those by geography or type, and then of course, if you ever want to just get the information from like your frontier customers, for example, and isolate those comments and so on, what they have. I've got a presentation I put together for you that I hope will be informative. You know, we know that broadband is a means to an end. It's not, oh, we've got broadband now. You know, part of this presentation was stimulated by my visit to your communities in these amazing town squares you have in your county seats. And those are the places that were the heart and soul of your community when those communities were created. And unfortunately, we all seem to like this suburban box development that ends up on the outskirts of town on the highway in isolated little buildings and dangerous to ride your bicycle to and not all that attractive. So your history is in these town squares, and I thought about the need for economic development. You know, we all say we're doing this for economic development, but we also know that inside most of your county seat towns, the broadband there has been certainly acceptable for 5, 6, 10 years, and are people making use of it? And so the idea is, how do we get the value from the broadband increasing? We always have some people are ready to jump in, start to make use of it, but then there, you know, you have the early adopters, you know, the innovators before that, early adopters, then late adopters, and then the laggards, you know. And if you look at those charts of technology adoption, how do you push people into that, you know, at least they don't have to be early adopters, but you don't want to be a laggard, right? And so that's an important thing to think about. And so I've got there's a lot of models out there that I'd encourage you to think about, and think about which of these might be right for your community. So let's go to the first one here. You've all heard me talk about this, that infrastructure is your exercise bike, but you have to get on it and ride to get the benefit. And I think in many of our rural communities in particular, there's a lot of people who are hanging their clothes on the exercise bicycle and not riding it. And so how do we get people to make use and get on for those values? Next. There's a gentleman in Minnesota. He's a University of Minnesota Extension professor. Ben Winchester is his name. And Nancy O'Drago has actually had him on a series of webinars talking about rural brain gain. And Ben is, I think he's kind of genius in a lot of ways, is really a super smart, nice guy. He does the broadband surveys with us when we do this program in Minnesota. But you can see that instead of people actually losing population, a lot of rural communities are pretty good at attracting people in midlife. You know, college students head off for education, the bright lights. But then when they start to have kids, they want to be maybe closer to their home, or at least experience the rural lifestyle they had growing up, not necessarily in their hometown, but in another different town. And so trying to attract these kind of people and make it a great place for them to live and become involved in the community. They tend to be entrepreneurial, well-educated. Some of them bring their jobs with them as telecommuters. And so think about that as an economic development strategy to try and make yourself attractive for people when they're driving around looking for a place. Say, this is a town I'd love to live in. And I think that is really a great possibility for that. And as Ben says, they're choosing to move to your town for what you are today, not what you were. And so no one, one of the big things is, in Minnesota, there's, a friend of mine moved to a mid-sized community out in the rural area, and he says, yeah, people here, they're always willing to talk to you about fishing, but will they take you fishing? And so the other thing about Minnesota, Minnesota give you directions to anywhere, but not their house. And so how do you welcome people to the community to help them stay and adapt and become part of the community? And I'm sure you might have even said this on your committee, well, the same damn people do all the work in this town. And they say, oh, we've asked but if you ask people who are new to the town, they say they're never asked to help. So think about new people, try and bring them into your community, have them a chance to become community champions in your community. Next. And so try and move forward. Not only just infrastructure, but a lot of different strategies to be more tech savvy. So I'm going to go through several different frameworks: intelligent community, National Main Street, Center on Rural Innovation, strong towns, and then my own, which is very simplistic. Next. So this is the intelligent community framework. And this is a think tank out of New York that was doing economic development planning in Canada. And how do we do new technologies in communities? Intelligentcommunity.org. And so they essentially say, on a base of internet connectivity, how do we help people workforce development, innovation, community engagement, digital inclusion, and sustainability? They have an international competition where they name the top 21 communities, and they get down to the 7, and then Intelligent Community of the Year. They've got a great benchmarking tool that is essentially the application. I'd encourage you to go there and take a look at that benchmarking tool and complete it. It doesn't really take that long to do the initial one, but begin to think about how these things do work together in your community. Especially, we see internationally in the competition, university towns are obviously going to be higher on this with innovation. They got labs and smart professors and research and new products and so on. But you can do this at a small scale too, no matter what your community is about. And so I just know that each one of these supports the other. The digital inclusion is certainly an important part. If 20%, 30% of your population can't get connected, you suffer all the things we talked about early in your presentations today, both with network availability and the affordability side. And then sustainability is an interesting one. When I work with rural communities, a lot of times you get sustainability. I work in the Iron Range of Minnesota. Oh, that's, lefty environmental wackos, whatever. But sustainability is also how do you all about precision ag? How do you reduce input costs? How do you make sure you're not polluting the water that your family drinks? All of those things about sustainability that are really applicable to rural areas. So that's that model. I really like this. I worked with a community where we made the top 21 3 years in a row. We never made that top 7, unfortunately. And part of the reason is we were a suburban county. We had a lot of great stories to tell, but the best communities are actually strategizing to make things happen. And we were never that, so I could never get the 13 communities, 6 chambers of commerce, 2 colleges to really work together and commit to that model. But they've got great conference in New York, which is really fun to go to. So next one, Main Street program. I know there's a lot of communities in Illinois that are in the Main Street program. They really talk about economic restructuring around these 4 different areas. Economic vitality, downtown, they're very much in the historic preservation and main streets, town squares, ensuring the vitality of those places. Technology can be a huge part of that. The Main Street Center's been around for a lot longer than the internet has. And so, but all the things that you're talking about doing around broadband and trying to make your communities better, this Main Street program is great. And you know, you can, throughout these frameworks, you can always mix and match and create your own unique recipe about what works for your community. But this economic vitality, organization, talking about long-term broadband committees. I expect that most of you have an economic development group as well. Promotion around downtown and festivals and happenings and so on. So that's there's a lot of great information there at the Main Street Center to think about as you try and maximize your community. These town squares, wouldn't it be cool if, you know, and frankly, you know, we see 20, 30% of those storefronts vacant in most of our rural communities. Think of those were all just, you know, work centers, or that's where you get your agronomists to locate, and so now the farmers have a reason to come downtown, and so on. So encourage you to think about the positioning of those communities as more tech-savvy kind of places. Next. The Center for Rural Innovation, it's called, or CORI. They're really about, again, how do we make rural communities more vibrant. They have a very strong emphasis on technology and kind of co-working, innovation center strategies, people living and working. You know, so when students from ISU come and visit the town, that, hey, you know, I can rent the place here really cheap. It's got fiber to the building. I can do all these kind of things. You know, there's a lot of opportunity there to try and attract those people and support them. And one of the things that when I find when we do community technology initiatives is that when you get a room full of people, all the technology people want to sit at the same table, because they rarely get to talk to each other about the technologies and networks. And we've had communities do a lot of like lunch and learn groups for all the rural people. It might be a multiple counties. We have counties that are near each other. Say, okay, let's get all the school technology coordinators together, the hospital folks, the bigger businesses. Doesn't matter, public or private sector, they're all trying to make their networks work, protect them from creeps from the outside. How do you do this effectively? Increase that kind of mixing and friction for better technology things. So here we got broadband infrastructure, leadership, we got plenty of that right here. Spaces, scalable tech entrepreneur support and incubation. Another thing that communities do is create these social media breakfasts. And if you, I don't even know post-pandemic if that concept came out of the pandemic or survived. It's just the idea of getting people in your community together to talk about how do you use social media, new technologies, you know, retailers, small businesses, connecting vendors with the small businesses. You know, if you live in the city, there's all kinds of tech vendors. If you live out in the rural countryside, there aren't that many, and they're not likely to drive 2 hours to your town to knock on the art store's door to say, hey, would you want to buy some, you know, web-based services? So you have to kind of go pursue them and bring them in. You might find you have a lot of these people actually living in your community, selling their services elsewhere. So that's another great concept there. Again, just trying to get tech people in the same room together. Then local wealth creation and so on. So this is kind of a cool thing. They're really centered more on the real estate in a lot of ways than some of the others. Next. The Strong Town, the Civil Engineering Society hates these guys. Because they're not about building new infrastructure, about using what you have. It's a very interesting guy who runs this organization, and but it's all about trying to protect your development pattern to make it really effective. There's a reason, he would say there's a reason that the grid system that's present in all the stuff that's 40 years old or more in rural communities and in cities is the grid. It's cheaper, land is efficient, it's a continuous, you don't have to get out on the highway to get safer, all the things we like to think about, walkable cities. And it just is a more effective development pattern. And so he's really about creating smart cities through right land use policies. And again, if you're thinking about what's attractive to people, why do people want to move to rural communities? It's walkable, it's safe, it can go downtown, a lot of ease of things. Not like 20 acres of suburban development on the edge of your historic town. So I just like this. It's not really all that related to technology stuff. But again, it's about the ability to attract people to your community. And next. So here's mine, the BS. Real simple for me. It's the B, so it's beer, bicycles, blues bands, and broadband. So beer, right? Everyone loves the brewery scene, right? And towns that don't have a brewery now are considered almost dead, right? If you don't, and breweries are a center for social things. People sit there just like a coffee shop. Who wants to drink coffee at 3 in the afternoon, right? So here's another place to open your laptop and meet your friends. Could be a distillery too, but it's harder to work.
Can it just be a bar?
What's that?
Can it just be a bar?
I think there's something that a bar, people sit facing the wall. At a brewery, they sit at long tables and people mix and match. So I think there is a difference.
Yeah, I know there is. I'm just worried.
And so bicycles all about walkable communities, safe transportation for people of all ages. So when people are looking for a community to live in, that's part of the deal, that there's kids on bikes and you can play basketball or soccer or whatever in the street. There's, that's just a part of what people are thinking when they think, I want to live in a smaller community. And so I think that bicycles is a big thing. Blues bands, you can have any kind of music you want, but I like blues bands. And I think that there's things to do in the evening, a cultural scene, that maybe it's local musicians. There's people my age now, I know multiple people now that are started bands. They were in bands when they were 15, now they're 65, they want to be in a band. And it's amazing, if you're listening to live music, they can be totally mediocre. You still think this is pretty good, this is fun. Everyone can play Tom Petty, the song, so 3 chords, right? So it's just something to think about. How do you facilitate live performance in your community? And that extends to other arts, comedy, all kinds of things. Something to do. And then broadband, of course. And just having that there, that is an attractor. It used to be that great broadband was a strategic advantage, competitive advantage. Now, if you don't have better broadband, you're just essentially out of the competition. And so people are going to look for that as a deciding factor. And so I think that is one of the things that people are always trying to attract people, right? That's a big thing. Don't try and attract seniors, older adults. If you attract people in their 20s and 30s, the seniors will follow. Because all we want to do is hang out with young pool people and feel young, right? We don't want the Florida model of, you know, doddering people out in their little gated communities. That people are looking, people I wanna hang with are people who wanna be in a multi-generational, fun environment. So just make sure that you're attractive for these younger folks. So that's my presentation today.
Bill, I was gonna say for you, I'll put that back up, it should be beer boat, blues bands and broadband.
Boats are good, yeah, you want,
Bill fishes, so.
you want, you know, and certainly that, I mean, where I would say that, and that, I'm gonna add boats in, but that's also just a substitute for a great natural environment.
And there you go.
That you have places to go, or moving water, that there's places to hike and enjoy and maintain those things. And again, that gets back to that sustainability pillar in the intelligent community, that if you don't protect your natural resources, it's gonna be a big strike, you know. Oh, there's our lake, but you can't swim in it, you wouldn't wanna eat a fish out of it, and all those kind of things. And so, you know, that's, as you go forward on your community development activities, of which broadband is one part of those. I know all of you are connected into many different organizations and boards and so on. Think about some of these strategies as a way to organize your activity. Because I think one thing that this program Accelerate or Broadband Breakthrough illustrates is what can happen when you get a group, like Margaret Mead says, you get a small group of people together and make things happen. That's the only way things happen. And so you think about the power of your teams around broadband and the changes we're seeing already, that we think, oh boy, things just started to happen. No, people, providers watch. They respond, they see you working on broadband, they say, well, if we want to protect our market share that we have, if we see this as an opportunity that's in our strategic plan, but it's 5 years from now, but that community's moving forward, they respond. They will never admit it. This was always our plan, oh yeah, but they respond to the activity that you're creating on this topic, and they want to make sure that if something happens, that they're involved in it. And I think you can say that about many other kind of types of organizations and activities of which some of these models really address. So pick and choose what works for you, and but continue to work on your communities and make them into places that you want to stay, and that people always say, oh, we want our kids to come back. I said, I don't care if your kids come back, I want somebody's kids to come here. So thank you very much for all your work. It's amazing what your teams have accomplished, and the learning and the activity, and I think the good direction you're on. Always feel free, you know, we're kind of done after today, but, you know, call on Benton, call on me, you have email addresses. Don't be afraid to call the Johns and say, what does this map even mean, and how do I manipulate it? And they'll send the twins out. They're available for contract GIS work. And bring them to your town, get them into business, right? Here's an opportunity. 2 guys graduating with degrees in a technology field, GIS, who needs that in farm country, right? So, you know, set them up in an office and introduce them to a few people, and they might be big employers in a short time. So, but just thank you all so much for your work. I recognize it and I appreciate it, so thank you. And with that, Adrienne, do you want to say goodbye?
No, well, you guys, amazing, all of you, my God, you know, I extend my praise to everybody, you know, the McLean team, because I've been sitting with them week after week, big love, Tony, you did an amazing job, but you all did a great job, and I think you did all work from each other, and that's why we love doing this as a cohort approach, you know, we really could just kind of pick people off, or we could double the size, but we think this sort of 5 to 6 people in a group tends to really, they kind of feed off of each other, great ideas, and they do continue. And I do want to give a big shout out to Ogle, because having gone through this before, I think they were really helpful to everybody initially, for sure, that this wasn't going to be some big scary thing. So you all have brought something to the table. I really, really appreciate, again, all the hard work, and we're looking forward to staying in touch. We will torture you and put you through an alumni meeting coming in about 6 months, and we'll also send out a post-program survey so that you guys can fill out, and please give us some meaningful feedback. I will say personally that my goal for the next time around is we threw a lot of information at you, and we maybe need to do a little better job trying to synthesize, though I do think you guys did some of that too. I was so pleased to see the high point analysis done by John and the twins, and then turn around and see that those surveys where the farmers said, yeah, I'll put something up, could be melded together. So I think we'll try to spend a little more time thinking about how that happens, whether it's through the feasibility study or just being more thoughtful as we go forward, because it was kind of a data dump. So I do recognize that that may have felt overwhelming to you all at times, but listen, whatever other improvements that you think we could make, we greatly appreciate it. And thanks for being the guinea pigs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And don't put that stuff away
Yeah.
in a drawer.
No, don't.
Like that.
Keep using it.
The surveys, the mapping that you have, keep that up in front of you and continue to look at that and use it for your opportunities, because I think that you're gonna really see the ongoing value of that data and information.
Yeah. Great, thank you. I'll drive safe.